Okay, and we are live. Welcome to a new episode of All Things Xbox Podcast. Once again, I've got Logan with me. Logan, how you doing this week?
Doing great, Jamie. Another week in paradise. Got a lot of good content out in the pipeline, sports wise, movie wise, game wise. Life's good. How about you, man?
Yeah, well, other than it being scorching here, now for people that don't know, last week we didn't have a show because I had heat exhaustion again. It was even worse this time. I passed out. It was terrible. But as you can tell, I'm alive. But my God, heat exhaustion is just no joke. I think for next summer, I'm going to have to figure out some way to get some sort of air conditioning in this house. I don't care if I have to knock down a wall. It's happening. like, it, like I know I see all the memes online about, Brits not having air conditioning and stuff, but honestly, and bear in mind, this channel, I try to keep it PG. This show, I'll be scraping the edge of that because, I'm really annoyed today by certain things. The heat being one of them. And, there's certain things like Logan, you probably don't know this because I doubt it's been reported in the US. Do you know that if you have air conditioning or want to get air conditioning in the UK, you're considered a bad person?
Uh, I hadn't heard that in the UK. I know France was strongly frowning upon people trying to get ACs, and Germany, I think, as well.
Yeah.
And then a bunch of Americans are laughing over here in AC,
Yeah.
you know. but yeah.
But hey, I'm jealous. I would like that air conditioning type of stuff. It looks
It's
nice.
pretty great.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's so hot in this room I'm in right now. I think it's the equivalent of 104 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oof, yeah, I feel it. It's been 100 or ish around where I live right now.
So pretty bad. But other than that, been a good week. The World Cup happened, and yes, this is a game of trouble. I want to briefly mention this: the World Cup final. Logan, did you watch it at all?
Not the final, but the World Cup, yeah.
Right, absolutely disgraceful. Argentina played dirty the whole match. There's this joke going around that Spain were playing football and Argentina were playing UFC because they were throwing Spanish players on the pitch, choking them, like doing everything other than actually play football. And Spain won. The whole world was Spanish that day, other than Argentina, because nobody wanted Argentina to win, and it was beautiful. But other than that, I thought the US did a great job at hosting it. I will say this: having a halftime show felt weird because British sports, we don't have halftime shows. When halftime happens during football, it just goes to the commentators and they talk about what just happened. Having people sing and dance in between halves felt a bit weird. But it comes with the territory, I guess. But other than that, I thought it was great.
Americans are antsy. They have to have entertainment constantly.
Yeah, another thing they kept doing as well, and I've seen this in American sports like basketball and stuff. The camera always keeps panning to the celebrities in the crowd.
Oh, y'all don't do that?
No, that's not a thing here. So
Really? Even with Wimbledon and British Open and stuff, you don't go, "Oh, the Duchess is here," or David Beckham or whatever.
with Wimbledon, you see that kind of before the match starts, but rarely during. But other than that, great show, and I won't be talking about football for another 2 years, because that's when
It
the
didn't
Euros.
come home, Jeremy.
It didn't come home. It was never going to come home. We played terrible. And I was going to rant about this last week, and now I can. England, what the hell were they thinking? They didn't try at all, and this is the thing that England does, by the way, in football. When they get into a winning position, when they're up 1-0, 2-0, who gives, right? They just stop playing. They start playing defensively, and when you only
Park the bus.
yeah, they park the bus. And whenever you play defensively in football, the ball is always on your side of the pitch, meaning that your players are running around more playing defensively. And it was just awful. We all saw it coming a mile away, and the coach was basically hired to prevent this from happening, so he didn't do his job. But other than that, I really enjoyed the World Cup. What you think is, right, I didn't actually know this until recently. So football in the UK. Sorry for people listening about gaming. We'll get to it in a minute. This is actually going to be the longest packed gaming show we've got when it comes to topics. We've got 22 topics. Um, there isn't really an off season when it comes to football, but in American sports there is.
Hmm.
That's strange. That's so strange. But we have different like leagues and different cups and stuff. But anyway, sports stuff aside. Um, and by the way, I know there's been a lot of talk today about the Avengers Doomsday trailer. Let me say, I do not watch trailers before I watch movies now, for the most part, and I have no intention of watching that Avengers Doomsday trailer. I want to go in with.
Actually, I haven't watched it either, for what it's worth.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've told you this before. I don't like watching movie trailers anymore. They spoil movies outright. I went into Avatar 2 and 3 without seeing the trailer. Dune Part 1 and 2 without seeing the trailers. And honestly, it's just a way better. Like, the Odyssey, right? The Odyssey's getting all these, like, accolades at the minute. Everyone's talking about it. I've not seen a single clip of the Odyssey, and I have every intention of watching it. Because, for everyone in chat right now and everyone listening later, for the next film you're looking forward to, or just a film you're looking forward to, go into it without watching the trailers. I guarantee you'll have a way better time. Because modern trailers show too much. And honestly, why do you want to see a whole film condensed into 3 minutes? I know I don't. Now, it's been a long week. Logan, what have you been playing?
Yeah, I've been playing several different things. Speaking of movies, I've been playing the Star Wars expansion for Firewatch Sim 2. It's
Nice.
incredible. It's really fun. Like, it has like that probe droid sounding noise, like when you use the frisbee disc attachment thing
Oh, yeah.
to wash, and then the the normal washer sounds like a blaster when you started on it, like heats up, and you're a little droid guy, and they've made you a canon part of the original trilogy lore
Oh, nice.
somehow, where where you're at all these locations at certain times. Like, you start off. You do the Moss Eisley, you do the Lars Homestead, and so you clean all that obviously before certain things go down.
Yeah.
Um, and then you are at the cantina after Han and Greedo, and then you're acquired by the Empire for reasons, and you're at Hoth, and you clean an AT-AT, and man, that was a tough task. And then you go from there to a Superstar Destroyer, the bridge, not the whole Superstar Destroyer. That would be
Hopefully. Yeah.
ridiculous. Um, and then after that, you get to clean the Millennium Falcon, and it's just really cool, and how they tie it in somehow, and it's like the ultimate games as a service game that just it feels natural, and they do a great job of using the licenses they're given and making them work. And it's just a lot of fun. Been playing that, been playing Balatro, trying to wrap up all the decks on that. I have like one or two decks left, I think, to beat on base. And then I can focus on some of the other stuff. And then also been playing Doom the Dark Ages.
Oh, nice.
Like, I had made a post when all the stuff went down during the quote reset, the purge, if you will, of Xbox. There, much was made about id, which we're going to talk about later. But I was like, you know what? To show support for id, I'll go ahead and bump Dark Ages to the front of the line on my backlog, because it's been one I've been meaning to play anyway. So I jumped in completely fresh. I had never played Doom Dark Ages, and I'm loving it. It is so much fun. It is. I. You know what? Maybe I'm in the minority, but I love the dragon
Oh, yeah.
section.
I think most
I know
people love it.
some people hate the vehicle stuff, but
Really?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've heard some people really hate the vehicle sections, and I love the dragon part. That it felt like I was in an X-wing or a Tie fighter, but a freaking dragon. It was awesome. And being able to, it was like Rogue Squadron. You fly around, you destroy the stuff with your dragon breath and cannons, and then you pop down, and then you go and destroy a little base or section, and then hop back in and fly around some more. I love the shield. Gears Lancer with Captain America shield hybrid. It's perfect. I love it so much. It's so fun to whip that thing around and have it bounce around, bonk everybody, fly back to you, or tear a hole into something or use for parkour. And also the pulverizer. Man, what a gun. That thing is so much fun too. Like the idea of like the skull shards and like the rune powered ones.
Oh yeah.
And I just got in the campaign where I'm at right now, the chain shot, and I'm really enjoying that too. Basically, for those who haven't played it, it's like a cannonball gun. Like on the old pirate ships, like the cannons that shot smaller balls, but they had like a chain that connected another ball to.
Oh yeah.
It's like one of those, but you're like firing it from like a handheld gun, and it packs a punch. Just game is awesome. Makes me feel bad I didn't play it at launch, but to be fair, there was kind of a lot of games that year when
Yeah.
it released. And yeah, so supporting id, and I'm loving it. It's an incredible game, and I can't wait to hop into Revelations when I'm done. How about you, man? Sorry that was long-winded,
No,
but
that's
I've
all
been
good.
actually playing a lot. So
No, it's all good. And before I get what I've been playing, I did notice that the Dark Ages DLC was actually number one on the store in the UK. So
yeah, so much for nobody cares about Doom, right?
yeah, and look, if you make a single player expansion, that's good. People will buy it. They don't care if the game is a 10-year old or a year old. And we're going to be talking about later with The Witcher because we got some news today. But yeah, I've been playing all sorts. I've been playing more of 007 First Light. My God in heaven, that game is amazing. I'm on like the last level at the minute, so by next week I'll have finished it. Great game. I mean, the combat is excellent. It's literally everything you want from a Bond game, and frankly, I'd say it's the best Bond game ever made. Just the way you use the gadgets and stuff. Like the fact that you can like throw a weapon at someone and it'll like catch them off guard, and you can run up to them and pick their weapon up and use it. Which I love. It looks so cool when you do it, but it looks so bad when you fail doing it. And you're like, okay, I'll hit restart. I've been playing a lot of. Look, this is the segment I like to call Jamie Glaze's Final Fantasy VII Rebirth for 5 minutes, because that game is peak. Like, I can't. The thing is, I've been told I've glazed this game maybe too much. People don't like the fact that I'm tweeting about it every day, but that's how I post about games. I tweet about all these games daily until I finish them. I help when I talked about Elden Ring. I posted about that game, not even kidding, every day for 3 months, and no one batted an eye. But talk about Rebirth for 3 weeks, and I'm the worst person in the world. But man, it's great. The characters are great. The combat, I absolutely love the combat in Rebirth. It's phenomenal. And honestly, when it's all said and done, it might go down as one of my favorite games of all time. I still prefer Intergrade because of its game structure. I think linear games work better for Final Fantasy. But my God, for people listening, by the way, I'm not sponsored by Square Enix, but they may as well at this point. Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade is like £13 at the minute in the UK. I think it's like somewhere like $13 around there. Worth every penny because you get like 44 hours of content. That's how long it took me to finish, and then you have a 4 to 6 hour expansion. But yeah, I've been playing Rebirth. It's great. I'm on chapter 9. I've put roughly 50 hours into it. It's brilliant. What can I say? I can't praise that game enough. And like, there's even a piano mini game. So in every town, there's a piano in the bar, and each piano has its own song, and you kind of have to just play along to the music in a. It's not like a Guitar Hero style minigame, but it's done really well. I've seen some other games do the piano minigame the same way, the way the notes are like laid out on screen. But man, it's so good, and I'm going to continue to glaze this game until Revelations comes out. So yeah, great game. I've also been playing a bunch of Warzone, but I'm not going to bore anyone with that. And Arc Raiders, and that game, I'm not even kidding. That game makes my blood boil, and I continue playing it. I think I'm actually going to have to delete it off my hard drive. Like I have been asked before, like why do I continue to play it? I complain that there's not enough content. The truth is that game has excellent gameplay. The character movement, the way you use all the items, it all just works seamlessly together. And honestly, it's like gameplay wise, it's the best multiplayer game out there in my opinion. Um, but other than that, I have been playing a little bit of Crimson Desert. That game is endless. I've put maybe 50 hours into that game, and I've explored around 12% of the map. It's a huge game. I think the Steam stats said that somewhere like 7% of people have explored the entire map of Crimson Desert. Like, because it's that big and it's described as a continent for a reason, because it basically is. But other than that, that's basically what I've been playing. Oh yeah, and I have played an indie game. I haven't got any footage for today, called Buckshot Roulette. That is a super fun game. You can guess what you do. You play Buckshot Roulette against what I assume is meant to be the Grim Reaper. It's a fun game. It's like 2 GB and it's on Game Pass. Highly recommend it. It's also got multiplayer as well. It's a super morbid game, but it's fun at the same time, and I think people might like it. You know what? Since we have like 22 topics, we're going to get into them right now. Now, we haven't had a show in 2 weeks, and sometimes the algorithm doesn't do us any favors after a significant amount of time off. So if you're enjoying the show, please hit like, share, and subscribe. The likes do help with the algorithm, unfortunately, and it is free. So if you can hit that, it's greatly appreciated. Retweets or sharing it out is greatly appreciated as well. Super chats are live if you want to support the channel that way, and it all gets funneled back into the show and the channel. Anyway, now there's all this talk about Game Pass and stuff, which we'll be discussing later in the show. Now, I'm going to mention a studio that's about to shut down or already has, and Game Pass does not affect this studio in any way. And I'm not saying these journalists call it out for what it is, because this studio called Midgar Studio, they made a JRPG a couple of years ago called Edge of Eternity. It's a really cool JRPG style game made by this French studio. And it's part sci-fi, part fantasy, all awesome. And, the studio was founded in 2008. They've made some smaller things that I don't even know what the names are. And they had a sequel coming out later this year, which was an action RPG called Edge of Memories. Looked really cool. I think there's a demo available on Steam. Well, anyway, they are finally having to shut doors because, they don't have the funds to keep the studio open, which is extremely sad to see. We are seeing this across the entire industry, these independent studios that, if a game doesn't do well out the gate, they can't keep the doors open for a significant amount of time. And if they, self-funded and self-published, it's even worse, they had no backing. Actually, no, I think Recon was going to, publish the sequel, but I don't even know if that's coming out now. So it's unfortunate, Logan. This is kind of new news to a lot of people, but did you ever play any of their previous games?
I actually played a little bit of Edge of Eternity and enjoyed what I've played of it. I've been meaning to revisit it, so I am saddened to hear them go. But yeah, the industry it's more and more like an industry problem right now. It's not a specific company. Like as much as everybody wants to dogpile and dry in on Xbox, which I mean, yes, give them some smoke. They deserve some smoke about some stuff. But in general, it's not just Xbox. It is clearly a systematic issue at this point, and this is just another unfortunate casualty in the war that's going on right now.
Yeah, and the next game looked really cool, but man, what a shame. We've seen this, with all these different studios, and like, look, there's been a bunch of studios lately that have shut down, and like, there hasn't been any official announcements that they've been shut down. So there was a game announced at the Game Awards back in December called Gang of Dragon, made by the developer or the lead developer that made the Yakuza games, and his studio couldn't get any funding, right? Which is crazy because that game looked great. Same with Mudang Two Hearts, which is that stealth game, and same thing happened with that, and we'll probably never see it. Which yeah, so like. And by the way, this whole show isn't going to be more, but I am going to rip into some journalists later in the show. But the problem is that in this game industry at the minute, these like mid kind of small to mid size studios that try to make these bigger games, they can't stay afloat, man. Thousands of games release every year, and how many games get actual attention online? Maybe 100, right? And like, some of those games have to go super viral. Some of those games you need streamers to absolutely pop off, sometimes naturally, sometimes paid for. And yeah, we're going to see this a lot. I mean, that's why, Embrace has shut down 44 studios over the past 6 years, because those studios cost a lot of money to keep open. And if you're not putting out a game for years, and that game that does come out eventually doesn't do well, yeah, it's unfortunate, but it happens. And if people are looking for a different kind of JRPG, maybe look at, Edge of Eternity. I had a lot of fun with that game. Let's see what we got next. You know what? We get to the good stuff now. So Ghost Recon Wildlands, which was a huge success. I don't think people actually realize how big that game was. That game sold over 25 million copies. And an absolute beloved game in the Ghost Recon space. And I think it's been the most requested game to actually get an upgrade when it comes to Ubisoft's older games. Well, it turns out, and the Xbox store leaked this the other day, Ghost Recon Wildlands is actually getting a next-gen update. So, 4K, 60, all that jazz. But it's also going to get brand new content. Now, for people that don't know, that game was so good, Ubisoft actually made 2 years of content. So, like, they came out with the year pass, which had a bunch of different, like, missions and events and stuff. And then so many people bought it, they actually decided to make a second year of content. Well, it's going to continue to get more content, which is great. I love that game. It's a hell of a stealth game. And even if you are new into stealth, you can play it with a bunch of AI squad mates and have a bunch of fun. It's not a super difficult game. You can make it difficult if you want, but like, it's a weirdly chill stealth game. When you're like trying to take down the cartel and stuff, but it just works, and you have this absolutely huge landmass that just works. And that game wasn't riddled with microtransactions like a different game. But man, what a game. I'm so happy that more people are going to be able to play it, because, people have been telling me for years they want that game to get 60 frames. Well, now you're going to get it. And I think it's going to drop on the 6th of August. So we'll probably talk about it again before then. But hey, I'm happy. I'll go back to it because I only did the year 1 content stuff. Logan, did you ever play Ghost Recon Wildlands?
Sorry, my mic screwed up for a sec. I actually never did, but it's what I'm curious about.
Yeah, so that you can play it with up to 3 friends online if you want, or you can play it with, AI squad mates. And I think that's the best way to do these types of games, because sometimes you just want to relax, play games by yourself. The options there for people. And you know what's funny, right? People have messaged me the past 24 hours or so saying, "Oh, I wish Wildlands got a sequel." And I look, the sentiment's nice. I get it. I would love a Wildlands sequel, but we actually got one, and it was called Breakpoint. And Ubisoft absolutely messed it up at launch. Thankfully, now it's a better game, but my God in heaven. You have a game that sells 25 million copies, and you mess up the sequel so bad that people forget it exists. that's a problem. Like, come on. Um, but I do like that Ubisoft, they're going back to a lot of their old games and giving them free upgrades. So, Far Cry 3 Classic, it's got an upgrade. Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon, got an upgrade. Same with, like, I never thought in a million years Assassin's Creed Unity would get an update. And it's 4K 60, and it's gorgeous. Arguably the best looking Assassin's Creed title still, due to the way its lighting model works. But yeah, so if people want, different older Ubisoft games to get upgrades, literally just keep on asking, because they listen. Believe you me, Ubisoft actually pays attention to their social media stuff when people ask for this. Yeah, Breakpoint. For all the crap I give it, whenever I talk about Breakpoint in a negative way, I literally mean the first 8 months. Because when they updated that game after a long time, they made it into an excellent stealth game, to the point now where I'd recommend it to people. I actually think it's in Game Pass Ultimate right now with all that Ubisoft premium stuff. But hey, Wildlands, it's in Game Pass Ultimate right now. Get it downloaded, play the 60 FPS update when it comes out, and who knows, maybe that new content might be free, because Ubisoft, they've been pretty good lately. And Ubisoft gets a lot of hate, some of it deserved, some of it not. And I think, this is worth the praise. And by the way, Logan, isn't it cool that we're actually seeing games that's like a decade old getting updates and expansions?
Yeah, it makes me very happy. We've been needing that for several big games, especially, The Witcher, which we'll talk about later. So I'm all for, preservation and older games in general. So the more people who get to experience these games, the better. And if they can add new content and meaningful updates and modernizations to gameplay and features, innovation, etc., hey, I'm down 100%.
I see this mentioned in chat, and people have asked us on Twitter a lot actually about this. So Ubisoft removed a bunch of old Splinter Cell games. We both noticed that a long time ago.
Yeah, they're they're cheeky.
Yeah,
I'll give them that.
and the weird thing is, like, if you remove those older games, wouldn't you think, okay, so they're coming out with a collection? Nope.
It's Splinter Cell, Jamie. You know they ain't doing shit. Oh,
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
sorry.
but
But like, I'm annoyed. Look, as a Splinter Cell fan, excuse me, as a Splinter Cell fan, I'm annoyed. I get nothing. Zip. Zilch. Like, nothing. It annoys the hell out of me, right? Like, I know there's an ongoing joke about me having a crash out every week about Splinter Cell at some point. I'm not going to do that today, but I'm close. Because, like, they have this perfectly good IP in a space where we don't get stealth games, not really anymore, and Ubisoft are just doing nothing with it. And I refuse to believe that the remake even exists. Because, okay, I'm getting annoyed. So they were able to remake Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag in less time than Splinter Cell Remake, a 12-hour linear game. I'm sorry, but that doesn't make any sense. My blood is boiling. But yeah, Ubisoft removing old games, which is why I keep telling people, like, there's one old Splinter Cell game on Xbox right now, and I think it's Chaos Theory. That's still available. So if you want it, I believe it's on sale at the minute. Get it now, because any day, without any warning, Ubisoft can and will remove it. Look, I'm still salty over the fact that they removed. Look, what was the name of their JRPG? Was it Enchanted Arms?
yes, they removed that before I could get it digitally. I'm still pretty miffed about that, to be honest.
Yeah,
And like the Prince of Persia, the cell shaded one, like they removed that before I could get it.
yeah,
And like they have this nasty, nasty persuasion for some reason to allow these games to be BC and then unceremoniously yank them within a few years without warning. And then they're just gone. And it's like, too bad, so sad. I'm like, at least if you are going to make a game BC, let it be up and let people get it. Or if you're going to be a troll and you're going to delist the game, at least publicly announce, we are delisting this game. Here is a sale. Get it for dirt cheap before it's gone. Do something. Don't do this thief in the night bullcrap. That is so scummy.
Yeah. Because I have seen Capcom and Sega in the past, they've both announced, like, sometimes even more than a month, that a game's going to be delisted. And they give you a chance to buy it. And if I remember correctly, Capcom, they've put their games on sale before delisting
Oh
them.
yeah, like $1.
Yeah. I can't remember what it was called. It was a pirate game. It was a top down.
Age of Booty,
Yeah.
I think.
Like I have no intention of ever playing that, right? But it was £1, so I bought it. And by the way, I think another Prince of Persia game that is still listed on the store is on for sale at the minute. I think it's £2. Was it? Oh my God, what's the name of the 360 one that's still available? Oh yeah, Prince of Persia: The Forgotten Sands.
Yeah.
I always mess up the name of that one, but yeah, that is a hell of a game. Great climbing, puzzles and all that stuff. It's basically the climbing puzzles from Assassin's Creed 2, but as a whole game, and it just works. But yeah, old games get delisted, unfortunately. Ubisoft need to just come out with a collection or something. And the thing is, it doesn't cost these companies any money to just host the game on the store, right? But they just keep removing them for no reason. And I can't see Ubisoft do anything with the Enchanted Arms franchise. Like, they're not going to do a remaster. They're not going to do a remake. It's just going to be gone forever. Now, back onto the positive stuff before we get into the big stuff later on, which we have a lot of big topics. Speaking of older games getting content, The Witcher 3 is getting a brand new expansion next year. We're finally going to see it in action. The trailer's going to drop during Gamescom Opening Night Live, the Jeff Keighley show. So yeah,
Of course he got that.
yeah, of course. I mean, it was bound to happen. But hey, look, it could show up on someone's Apple Watch down the street, right? I'll watch that trailer because I love The Witcher 3, and the fact that it's getting an expansion these years later. The expansion's actually being developed by the studio that's actually making The Witcher remake. So that's going to be interesting, and this is meant to bridge the gap in between The Witcher 3 and The Witcher 4. I honestly think, I'm not even kidding, I think this DLC is probably going to sell like 10 plus million copies. CD Projekt Red always do really good pricing for when it comes to their expansions. I think, was it Blood and Wine, the big expansion? I think that was like £15 when it came out in the UK, which is, that's a full-size game expansion. For which what it basically costs like a small meal, So hey, we're finally going to see it in action. I'm sure it's going to be great. It's The Witcher 3, and for people that don't know, that also has a next gen upgrade, which looks phenomenal. They did a bunch of stuff with an optional over the shoulder camera. The lighting model is more beautiful than ever, and that's a beautiful game anyway, no matter what you play it on. But yeah, I'm excited. Logan, what about you? We talk about The Witcher 3 all the time, and I think that that was one of the big standouts last generation. And then coming out with an expansion, then it'll be 12 years after after the game came out.
Yeah, when you tell me one of the greatest games of all time is getting a brand new expansion 12 years later, I was like, of course I'm into it. I'm day one. Let's go. And when you put on top of it that it's going to bridge the gap for 3 and 4 and tie some things up, it makes it even more so. So, heck yeah, day one, let's go.
Yeah. I mean, look, give any old game an expansion, people will be into it. Like, can you imagine if there was a random Mass Effect 3 expansion? I would chill that so hard. like there's nothing else. But no, I'm just happy to see more content because, I think a lot of people were sad, that we aren't going to get another Geralt of Rivia game. But, he's had 3 games, and there's the remake coming as well. But yeah, that gameplay, that game stuck with people. Up there with Red Dead Redemption 2. It's one of the other games I gave a 10 out of 10. but it's such an amazing experience, and plus it's going to get a bunch of new people into The Witcher 3 that have never played it before. Um, I love that CD Projekt Red basically have all their goodwill back, you know, because The Witcher 3 came out. Yeah, it was a bit buggy at launch. They fixed it fairly quickly, and they put out free DLC for it. Then CD Projekt Red, they teased Cyberpunk for 8 years. I was like one of the first people on Twitter saying, "Oh my god, I can't wait for this game," and it came out 8 years later. Then there was the huge backlash with how that launched, but like they made it into an incredible product. And if anything, it's one of the best sci-fi RPGs ever made, and they have that goodwill back, which is nice. And if anyone's deserved it, it's CD Projekt Red. They deserve all the praise they get, and do I glaze them a bit too much? Maybe, or maybe not enough. But yeah, I think that's going to be great. Let's see what we got next. Okay, a brand new Xbox update just dropped. So this is rolling out to people right now. I assume a lot of people listening will either have this now or in the coming days. Now, this has a bunch of features a lot of people have been waiting for, such as the game hubs are being updated. So for the longest time, if you fired up a 360 game via the game hub, it didn't really have much information. Now you're going to have your screenshots, your videos, and even achievements. We're actually going to be able to view our achievements outside of the game. Finally. Because I know they've probably been working on the 360 stuff for a very long time. But hey, I'm happy. Logan, I know you've been wanting this 360 update for a while.
Yeah, this is great news, and I'm very happy they're finally updating 360 stuff with the achievements that you can see in the hub, and the whole. I don't know if you've fiddled with the update yet or not, but the whole being able to turn your artwork into like full length like posters type stuff for the game tiles is really cool. And like there's all kinds of stuff they've added into this update.
Yeah, I actually just changed that before we went live. So for people that don't know, we've had the square tiles on Xbox for, I want to say, 8 years now. Well, now you can choose between tiles or full length, game artwork. Honestly, I've been so used to the tiles, I don't know which one to keep. But the full game artwork does look really nice. Although I do have folders for Final Fantasy and Star Wars games when it comes to the groups, so it is nice seeing all those posters there. But yeah, that's a really cool update. And also, they've upscaled all the 360 achievements, because before they were very pixelated. Now that's not the case. Before we continue with the rest of this topic, we have a super chat by Nick W. Thank you very much for the $4.99. He says, all the Witcher games are excellent. Looking forward to the Witcher 1 remake. Right, let's glaze The Witcher for a minute, because I talk about The Witcher 2 all the time. The Witcher 3 is a masterpiece. Nobody can doubt that. But The Witcher 2 is so good. So good. And I feel like, it gets overlooked a lot because, the time it came out, and The Witcher 3 is such a big game, big experience. But The Witcher 2, Assassins of Kings, man, that is a special game. That's also a hub world RPG game. My favorite. Logan, did you ever play The Witcher 2?
Oh, of course. It's one of my favorite games ever, along with The Witcher 3. Honestly, like this might be a nuclear take, but I honestly kind of like the story maybe a bit more in 2 than 3. But like, I mean, it's like comparing favorites.
Yeah.
Like I love them both, but like the whole like not to get too spoilery, but the whole Sophia Dragon thing
Yeah.
and the the storyline with her, and then like Philippa Eilhart and like the dwarves, and then like how there's like a huge difference, like there's a big choice you make and it completely changed the acts
Yeah.
at the end of the game. And it's like you're either with the Elf Rebellion side of things, or you're with the Radani state of intelligence side of things. And it completely changes like gameplay, location, characters, quests. everything. It's not a token gesture choice. It is a big deal. And I thought it was super fascinating, and I loved the end, especially with,
Yeah.
Geralt and some of the stuff he chooses or doesn't choose to do, and how it's just on brand for him. And yeah, I always have a special place in my heart for Assassins of Kings. It was my first Witcher game, and I particularly just love it.
Yeah. Allegedly, The Witcher 2 is a game that kind of spooked BioWare. Because The Witcher 2 had, was it 18 different endings?
It should have, kicked them in the butt to
Yeah.
try to get something going, because that game rocks.
Yeah. Uh, and the fact that you have, I think it was the second act where, depending on your choice, took place in a completely different place. Which is funny because if you played that game at the time without game guides, and then you made a different choice, you'd be like, wait a minute, I've never been here before. Which I thought was really cool. And The Witcher 1, I don't. I think I told Logan this. I may have mentioned this on my channel. I don't know, but I'll talk about it again. So my laptop at the time wasn't exactly the best. It was just a simple laptop for word processing and stuff. And basically, I didn't have a PC that could run The Witcher, or at least I didn't think it could, because I was dumb, didn't know anything about tech. So anyway, I figured out a way of playing The Witcher 1. So I played The Witcher 1, or at least tried to, via OnLive on my laptop, with a trackpad. So it wasn't the most ideal experience trying to play a third-person RPG with melee combat with a touchpad and WASD or whatever it is. Not ideal. So I just couldn't do it. And that was one of the two games I owned air quote, owned on live. I think I owned that and The Vanishing of Ethan Carter. That was it. That was a terrible streaming service at the time. My God, what were they thinking? But yeah, The Witcher 2, incredible. And if they come out with The Witcher remake this next year, which I think they will, I think it'll come out next year, I will buy that in a heartbeat. Now I assume they're redoing all the dialogue and stuff, because you can tell, by the way, the lead actor just got way better throughout the games. That first game is rough. But hey, I'm happy I'm going to be able to experience the first game. And, The Witcher 2, will The Witcher 2 ever get a remaster? I think it will. I think it will. It still looks good. You fire it up on an Xbox Series X right now. It's 4K, HDR, all the bells and whistles. And it looks good still. It looks really good. So all you have to do is, make that 4K 60 HDR, slap in the Ultra HD textures off, PC. Boom, you got a port. And I say that because, apparently it's that easy, and I'm a game developer, apparently. But hey, The Witcher, we're getting more content. It's beautiful. And I know I complain about swords and dragons and fantasy games all the time, but I do make an exception for The Witcher. Up there with Lord of the Rings as well. Let's see what we got next. You know what? Oh my God. I wasn't kidding, by the way. We do have 22 topics. So, college football is a big game in the US. And, when the new game came out, I think it was 2 years ago, people were going nuts because I always see people in my feed asking for a new, college football game. So they come out with a brand new game in 2024. People love it. They come out with a new game in 2025. People love that as well. So, you'd think, well, this is a yearly game by a year. They're going to do what they normally do, which is what all these sports games are at the end of the year, or at the end of the day, where it's the same game, basically, but with some improvements, where they just change the number on the box. So anyway, this year, they added microtransactions to the single-player mode. Now, this doesn't really surprise me. However, the community spoke up. So people that made content on college football, they spoke up. Apparently, EA actually hid these microtransactions from the preview event, which is pretty shameless. And And yeah, they lied to all the streamers. So all these streamers and content creators that were getting blowback of not telling their audience that, oh, by the way, this has microtransactions. The truth is, they didn't even know. So anyway, the blowback was so bad. The boycott and people not buying it. They've actually reverted the decision, and they've removed the microtransactions for the most part from the single player mode. I can't remember the name of the mode, but basically they've removed them, which is good because, like, as much as I complain about microtransactions, I don't buy them. But to put them in single player games, I will complain about that every time. There's no place for microtransactions in single player. I think there's maybe a rare occasion where I can kind of let it slide. But yeah, just because it's a sports game, I'm never going to play it. I think it's kind of disgusting that someone worked out, by the way, that if you wanted to max level your coach in college football, it would take 150 years of playtime. Like, you'd have to hand this to your great grandkids to finish this mode. Like, that is absurd. And by then, the servers will be off because, sports games get delisted after a year or so. But Logan, what do you think? Because, I don't know if you play college football, but, like, microtransactions in the single-player mode, even though they've removed them, that is egregious as hell.
Yeah, it's pretty scummy, but, knowing who makes the game, it's pretty on brand
Yeah.
for EA. They're the guys who wanted to charge you for a reload in a shooter, for crying out loud. And if you don't believe us, go back and look it up. Like, one of the battlefields, they originally wanted to charge you for, per bullet or per clip or something for reloads. Horrendous idea. Your greed knows no bounds.
Yep.
And the idea of a sports company or a game that's a sport game trying to do that, not surprising. Those things are riddled to heck with microtransactions anyway. So it's not a surprise. It is disappointing how far they went, though. And it's bad when the sports community stands up for it because they're used to getting screwed over royally by these every year. They buy for more sweat pixels every year. It's a sham. It's I love sports. I'm a diehard sports junkie, and I'm like, no. This should be a game you buy once or every few years and get updates for rosters and stuff for. It should not be this yearly sink of cost and stuff. Like, there's a way better way to do it. But they like gouging you, and they like your money up front every year because they got you. So, yeah, not surprised. I'm glad it's gone though, because if you piss off the cash cow that is gun ball gamers, then you're dead. So glad they fixed it, but hey, you thought EA would have learned when they pissed Disney off with Battlefront 2?
Yeah, that was bad.
There are some franchises you don't bleep with. College football and Star Wars are two of them. You do not bleep around with that. And they put their hand in the fire and it came out crispy. So that's what they get for that.
Yeah. Well, bear in mind later on the show, I am gonna throw a bunch of game journalists on the bus because I just want to, and I will mention their names. None of them have mentioned this, by the way. There's no articles. There's no blogs. There's no rage tweets of, hey, how are EA doing this? Because it gets worse. And I saw Nick in chat write about the $100 thing. So it actually gets worse, Logan. Because as they, people were celebrating that they've removed the microtransactions from the single player for the most part. There's a subscription service that EA now has for college football. It's called MVP Plus. And you get a bunch of perks and stuff. And, kind of like GTA Plus, where these games are now getting subscription services tied to them. So anyway, if you want to max out your coach's skill tree or some of your best players' skill trees, some parts of the skill trees are locked behind the subscription service. And the subscription service costs $150 a year. So
I'm telling y'all don't dislike these publishers enough. This is
yeah,
bad.
yeah, it's bad. And by the way, still no articles on this at all. Where's these
But did you
journalists at?
hear only 5 people bought discs this year?
Yeah, we're going to be talking about that because like I that's why I'm annoyed today, right? You know, I don't play sports games anymore. Or should I say I don't buy them anymore. Like my last sports game was FIFA 14 and that came with my Xbox One. Right? It was the FIFA bundle. And by the way, I have that installed. Funny little story. The pro mode where you create your own player in FIFA, it actually tells you all the previous times you've saved. I think it's like the 3 previous signs. It turns out I've re-downloaded FIFA 14 during the past 3 World Cups. So some new ones hit each other, and I'm like, I want to play some FIFA, and yeah. So there's a 2022, 2018 there as well, which I thought was funny. But yeah, I don't play these games anymore. But I'm going to stand up for people that do because my God, it's egregious. These games are now getting subscription services in the games themselves. GTA Plus, right? That's egregious. They removed cars from the game. It got a pass, right? And locked them behind a subscription service. It got a pass. It got a pass. I don't know if NBA 2K does anything like that. But it wouldn't surprise me at this point. It's the same publisher as GTA. But such an egregious move by EA, which makes me worry about other single player games coming. But yeah, EA aren't learning. And by the way, they did promise that they're going to find new ways to monetize the single player in future games. So yeah. But people just need to keep being vocal. This is why, we're going to talk about the PlayStation disc thing later on. But I want to get this said. I've heard a lot of people say that they're not going to be vocal about the disc situation because they don't think it's going to make a change. And I think that is the wrong way to think about it. Because if enough people speak up, things change. That's how Xbox DRM got sent back to, into oblivion, basically. That's why EA reversed the, microtransactions for the campaign. For college football for the most part, but like people need to be more vocal about this stuff. It doesn't matter if you get deals by these games. Like Logan, how many times have you heard me call out Square Enix? I think Logan's cut out.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I bumped my remote. Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, we've raked them over the coals for like a decade at this point, and then they finally turned it around, and we've been singing their praises.
Yeah, and like I heard that the reason why the Kingdom Hearts collection, the HD collection, came to Xbox was because of people on Twitter asking for it. Right? That's what I heard. So like people need to be vocal about stuff. If you want something, ask for it. If you don't want something, tell them. But like when it comes to things like this, people just need to be more vocal. I think that if you speak enough, they pay attention. As long as you're respectful about it. That said, with the disc thing, that was it's been kind of funny online. But yeah, I complained to Square a lot over the years about not putting their games on Xbox, such as Final Fantasy 7, 16, Rebirth. I mean, look. I thought we weren't going to get Tactics for a while, and then we did. Crisis Core, and we did, thankfully. But, they're doing multi-platform everything now. Every Square Enix game that's been announced is coming to Xbox, Dragon Quest, oh my God, I can't remember it, but I think a Dragon Quest game that comes out in December, it's coming to Xbox. The last Dragon Quest game, Dragon Quest 7 Reimagined or Reignited, that came to Xbox. So, like, people just need to be vocal about this stuff. Doesn't matter if you want something or don't want something. Like, just be vocal. These companies do actually listen. But yeah, EA being scummy with the subscription service. My God. And by the way, we are going to continue to see this over the next couple of years, where they tie subscription services to these games for extra in-game benefits. It is unfortunate as well, but people keep buying into it. And by the way, I've mentioned this before, but I'll mention it again. There's a car in Grand Theft Auto Online in 5, it's my favorite car in the entire game. It's not the fastest, but it's the best handling. It's called the Jester, right? Do you know they took that game from the store, like the ability to buy it like with in-game currency. And as far as I know, last time I checked, they actually tied that game to the subscription service. So like to me, I own that car. So if I ever want to boot up GTA 5 online or whatever they're gonna rename it, I've got my car for good. But the fact that people can't buy that game and just pick up that car, which is it's a great car, they can't do that. That's a shame. You no longer purchase a full game. You purchase a game that gets altered whenever they want, willy nilly. Anyway, let's move on. You know what? We'll get to the good stuff now. So Dino Crisis is something that we've been... Is it called port begging if you want a remake or remaster? We'll just call it port begging.
We've been trying to defrost that sucker for a long time.
Yeah, like a woolly mammoth. Like we've been wanting... And I think a lot of people have been wanting Capcom to go back and, remaster, well, remake, the Dino Crisis games. But for all intents and purposes... Dino Crisis is essentially a new IP to a lot of people whenever that new game comes out. Well, anyway, they're coming out with a brand new remake. It leaked, and it came from a similar, the source where previous Resident Evil games have leaked, which is great. And I couldn't be happier. Like, yes, I'm a scaredy cat, I admit, when it comes to horror games, but do you know what I like? Dinosaurs. Do you know what I like even more? Dinosaurs and horror. Because those two just work hand in hand, and yeah, we're going to see a remake. Apparently, we're going to see it in action next year, which is lovely. So next year, we're going to get Code Veronica remake and potentially Dino Crisis remake in the RE engine. So you're going to have some absolutely nuts-looking dinosaurs in, some really cool-looking science labs. Now, Dino Crisis 1 was a very short game, so I'd be interested to see if they've turned each game into its own full kind of experience or combined both games into one. Either way, I'm excited. Logan, what do you think? Because we've been talking and asking about Dino Crisis for a long time.
Yeah, I'm thrilled if this is accurate. Like, again, grain of salt with anything Dino Crisis or Banjo Kazooie or Half Life 3 or, anything we've wanted for ages that hasn't happened yet. But if it's accurate, I've been wanting this for ages. I would love a combo pack of, 1 and 2, but that might be greedy. Like, heck, if it's just 1, I'd be euphoric at this point. And I think it would totally do really well. Like you said, it's practically a new IP, an obscure, cult hit, horror game from the 90s, early 2000s, PS1 era. Like for modern audiences, for the most part, is brand new to them. So I totally think in this era, which has been a new horror golden age, that it is the perfect time to bring it back, especially when they've been bringing back all the Resident Evils better than ever. Why not give the people what they want and give them some flippin' dinosaurs as well? It's really not that big of an ask. People like guns and dinosaurs and like spaceships, okay? It's we're not complicated folks sometimes. Like we can make this happen.
Yeah. I did read that apparently it's the same team that did Resident Evil 4 remake.
Well, there you go. They know what they're doing.
Yeah. And Dino Crisis, look, I haven't played Dino Crisis since I was a little kid. I can just remember dinosaurs in horror. But it just seems like a weird genre we just don't get, Like dinosaurs and horror, it seems like such an obvious thing. Zombie games are all popping off at the minute. You have Ill, which comes out next year. Resident Evil, Code Veronica remake, that's gonna pop off. But like something with dinosaurs, I think would be really refreshing to a lot of people. And let's be honest, if you slap that RE logo, RE engine logo on a box, people know what it is now. Capcom, a Capcom logo now is basically the seal of approval because they don't make bad games.
Yeah, and you could even tie it in with that Oak Tree movie that's coming out before too long.
Yeah.
Like, to hype off that. Like, dinosaurs and horror is hot right now.
Yeah. And I'm gonna take a wild guess, and this is a safe guess, that we're going to see it at the Game Awards in December.
Oh yeah, if anything, Keeley would get that.
Yeah. And you know what? By the way, I know I've gave Jeff Keighley a lot of crap over the years. I think the way they handled the Code Veronica stuff last year was done really well. Kind of tease that there's something Resident Evil in development, and just outright say nothing's been shown today, and then boom, 10 minutes trailer, loved it. I do wonder though, Code Veronica was a kind of a shorter game. Will we actually see Zero remake next year and as well? Yeah, it'll be too soon, I'm guessing. I'm one of the 5 people that loved that game.
Me too. The train
Yeah.
is so cool.
Which is funny because, bit of a tangent. I see people make Resident Evil tier lists all the time in my feed. You'd be shocked how often I never see Zero on that list. It's like, it's this one game people just kind of skipped because yes, it was on the GameCube at the time. I don't know if it went on other platforms. I know it's on Xbox now with the 360
I think
version.
it was on Wii as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it was, yeah. But, yeah. Great time to be a horror fan. Lots of cool games coming. All that jazz. Let's see what we got now. You know what? This is a bit of a drama-filled one, so let's talk about this one quickly. id Software is shutting down, apparently. Or they did shut down, allegedly. Which...
Actively burned to the ground.
Yeah.
Nuked. It's like eradicated from existence.
Yeah, and thankfully I have seen people from Xbox outright say on social media over the past couple of days that, don't believe everything you see, and the thing that was going around was that id Software was basically a skeleton crew now, and apparently the whole tech team was gone, which would who's going to continue to develop the engine. Turns out that was all made up. id Software is perfectly fine. There were some layoffs, but they're still a full studio. They're making games, and yeah, apparently they're making a new Doom game, which is really cool. I would have liked to have seen them try a new Quake game, but Quake has been listed in the IPs that have been shortlisted to be made next. But either way, id Software, they're safe. Look, I am kind of sick and tired of how leaks and rumors has turned into 100% of gaming news, right? I complain about this all the time. But the fact that people just ran with it straight away, investigative journalism used to be that a journalist finds out something, they get a tip on something, they try and, find out whether it's true or not, and then they report on it. But then, if it turned out to be wrong or false, they do this thing called a retraction, where they make a public statement saying, hey, this is wrong, and then they maybe even pull the article. Do you know what happens these days? They just update the current articles so it stays up, continues to be monetized, and they say, oh yeah, it's actually not true. So that original post that was 100% wrong still gets monetized, still gets those clicks, because look, if you hear id Software is closing down, you click on that, you're thinking, what the hell, who's going to make Doom? Who's going to continue to develop the ID software engine, the ID tech engine? But no, there's never any ramifications for these people that peddle this stuff, and I can't be the only one that finds that a problem, right? A huge piece of gaming news, yes, Xbox layoffs were bad, but nowhere near as bad as people let on, right? Studios weren't shut down, games weren't cancelled, yet we were led to believe that the end of the world was coming. Xbox was going to shut down all these studios, and you had some of the biggest, I'm doing air quotes, journalists in the gaming space reporting this stuff. It's egregious, and no one's going to call these out. Look, these people are clowns, whether they work at Bloomberg or have their own blog. Clowns. There's very few journalists I actually respect now in the gaming space, and it's just sickening. These are people's imagine you work at id Software. You wake up, you brush your teeth, you get ready for work, and you open up Twitter and say that, oh, by the way, id Software's shutting down. Now, I've never had a heart attack personally, but I can guarantee that would maybe cause one. Right? The fact that no one apologized for this, People just peddled this rumor. Um, I'm sorry, but like maybe Microsoft needs to stop giving these outlets, access, stop giving them interviews, because if they could completely just spreading misinformation and just getting away with it, that's not right. That's not right. Logan, what's your take? Because uh, it's just kind of disgusting how far people push that. They're making clickbait on it. You know, make a weird face in a thumbnail saying, "Oh, Xbox is dead." id Software's dead. Like, and they all got away with it.
Yeah, it's like you hate to call into question somebody's character integrity, but it at some point, if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, looks like a duck, it's a duck. And it feels like there is just some pretty outrageous and egregious stuff going on that people just gloss over or just let it go and they move on, or they spread stuff like wildfire, make it sound like a fifth extinction event is happening, like make it sound like they literally rounded up all these people and like did all kinds of unspeakable things. Yes, the layoffs were really bad. They were. Studios were spun off, which it sucks, but at least they weren't shut down. Like they made it sound like a fifth of Xbox might be gone, at one point. And it just you spread things saying this studio's gonna be gone, and then oh, actually it's a few layoffs at this studio. They're not being shut down at all. It's like, really? Or you've got, people saying, well, they're working on this project, but now it's canceled in favor of this. And it's like, well, actually, no, they're still working on this project, but they're also doing this as well. And, and then, like, honestly, did this will rub people the wrong way some, but, whatever. Some of the biggest culprits were fellow devs or publishers or former publishers that would put things out there like I'm hearing this, or if this is true that, or from people I know this or this, and they would make it sound like it was an absolute black plague levels of a massacre going on. And yes, the layoffs were very bad, but the idea of making it sound like there's 5 people and a dog left at id Software to keep the lights on, make a new game, and keep id engine running is completely false. They are this around the same size as they were when they made Doom 2016, which it's a good sized studio. Is it smaller than they were a month ago? Yes. Would I have preferred they kept all that awesome talent and senior leadership and engineers and stuff in house and looked at someone else besides id? Absolutely. I think the decisions with id, how they handled that was frankly not a good decision. I'll just put it that way. I think they should have been left alone. But it is what it is. They are definitely not a dead studio walking, though. And these people should be ashamed of themselves for how they spread all this and this. And then it's just, hee hee, lol, I
Yeah.
was wrong, oh well. And then they move on. Like giggle, grins and giggles. Like this wasn't a big deal. Like you said, imagine you work at Obsidian and you see on Twitter, oh, by the way, we've been sold off or shut down. And then you go into work and it's complete bullcrap. Like, it's like finding out you're being traded or waived on Twitter and you're an athlete. It's like, what are we doing here? Have some integrity. Just shame on all of this. And the aggregate accounts. Stop sharing every daggum thing that comes out of anyone's mouth. Some of it is just not worth sharing. Period. End of discussion.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, there's a bunch of aggregate accounts that do the daily news thing. I think there's nothing wrong with doing the daily news thing, but I think like every rumor as news, it's like it. I do see people getting tired of it. Like, there's legit news things to cover in the gaming space, like I was talking about before with the whole EA, um, microtransaction stuff. By the way, Logan, until I mentioned that, have you heard anyone talk about it?
No, I don't think I had.
Right? Nobody's talking about this stuff. It's the spicy topics. Xbox this, Xbox that, Game Pass bad. Yes, we'll be talking about that in a bit. But like, I never see like the really important stuff, and I always talk about the journalists not covering the whole black hole games thing. They never talk about it. They never talk about the actual problems. But we have to make stuff up. We have to peddle this rumor, and unfortunately, people fall for it. Uh, you know, uh, Flies are unfortunately attracted to a certain substance that's found on roads sometimes. Um, Trying to be extra PG today. Um, but look, they fine. But the other studio that was apparently going to be shut down is Obsidian. There's a lot of irony in this topic because Obsidian were apparently a skeleton crew, all being shut down, and it was all made up. There were some people let go, yeah, which is unfortunate, and hopefully they'll land back on their feet soon. But these lies need to stop, man. Uh, you know, Obsidian, they've made excellent RPGs in the past. They are one of the best RPG developers. They can make all sorts. They make first person RPGs, third person RPGs, sci-fi, fantasy, espionage. They did the South Park game, The Stick of Truth, right? And that game is wild. But that rumor must have scared the hell out of people over at Obsidian, and we're going to be talking about what they're going to be making next in a bit. But yeah, it's a bit unfortunate that these stories get a bit out of hand. But I really hope these like news aggregate sites or media accounts tone it down a little bit, because not everything is worth talking about. Not everything. Like, I could go on Reddit right now and make up some wild rumor, and then someone on social media will see this. They'll make a post about it. Then you'll see the clickbait channels make content about it, and it's all been fabricated, And I see it all the time. Oh, this rumor started on Reddit. It always starts on Reddit, right? It's just tiresome. But yeah, and Xbox ain't perfect. Don't get me wrong. Like, the layoffs were bad, but to outright say some studios are just shutting down, it's crazy. Anyway, let's see what we got next, because we still have like 10 topics left. You know what, Logan, you want to talk about this because the Halo remake, Halo campaign Evolved, comes out super soon, and it looks super great. And what can I say? It's Halo, and it's Unreal Engine 5, and it looks like the team's done an incredible job with it. And I've heard nothing but good things about the missions that are brand new. The fact that you can sprint in the game, which to me is not an issue. I know it is an issue to some people, but for all intents and purposes, I'm hearing it's a really good game. Now, Logan, I know you want to talk about this because there's been a bunch of Halo stuff going on.
I'm looking forward to the remake. It looks really good. I'm especially looking forward to the expansion missions that are like prequel missions with Master Chief and Sergeant Johnson set before Halo 1. I think those are going to be particularly illuminating and fascinating. Especially, you consider some of the novels in the Halo universe that cover stuff, and there's a lot they can adapt out of those. Add brutes into Halo 1 basically with that and some other stuff. I can't wait for it. I think it's going to be fun. I I know they couldn't pull Halo and Fable from PlayStation, but it still just feels so blasphemous and wrong seeing that and seeing PlayStation tweet about it. It just bothers me on some intrinsic level. Like, maybe I'm old fashioned, but that's still really annoying to me. And I don't want that to happen again. Like, going forward, we're gonna get into exclusivity, but never again. Halo on PlayStation. This is ridiculous. It's gross. It's blasphemous. Anyway, I'm looking forward to the game. It looks great. I'm excited for the prequel missions. And please, I don't know what they have to do, but somebody get your head on straight and figure out how to run that studio or give it to somebody else. Because it has been a clown show for the last 15 years, the management of that franchise. I don't know if it's location. I don't know if it's all the staff. I don't know if it's the people who choose the staff or how, the contract structure, whatever it is, figure it out. Halo and Fallout, Elder Scrolls, these massive franchises are pillars, and you don't treat your crown jewels like crap and expect it to work out great. Just figure it out.
Yeah. Look, again, we can only go off the Halo rumor. And the unfortunate thing about the whole Halo thing, a lot of it's turned out to be true, from what we can tell. But like, apparently there's no single player project in the works. There's no multiplayer project in the works. They've just been working on this, and different projects are being cancelled. Like, Halo at some point in time has always been in some rocky stage of development. If you go back and look at how Halo 2 was made, like, they were working around the clock. Like, that game was held together by, pencils, chewing gum and duct tape when it came to its E3 showing, right? Like, if you strayed off a particular course in that E3 demo, the whole game crashed, right? And so I bet the people at Bungie, they were like sweating, just hoping this E3 demo would go well, and thankfully it did. Um, it just seems like they can't like put their foot down on a decision. And I think it boils down to fan reaction stuff. Like, if you look at Halo 4, right? Halo 4, brand new studio, a lot of ex Bungie employees, with the 343 games at the time, and I personally, and I get hate for this every time I mention it, I actually loved Halo 4, loved it. They made the relationship between Cortana and Chief more human. And honestly, I liked their way of cinematic storytelling more than Bungie. I think they did a better job with the way the story's told. I mean, and also being able to grab ledges and sprint was actually pretty nice. Although, actually, I think the grabbing ledges thing was 5. But either way, sprinting never really bothered me. But then they heard the fans outcry online. They reacted. Halo 5 came out. They reacted. Like, Halo Infinite is essentially like combat evolved in a lot of ways, right? Just to its game structure in certain points. But like, even though the suit, they went backwards in my opinion. And I like that suit, but it's a step down from Halo 4's because Halo 4's is more practical in my opinion. But they keep reacting to these like fans, right? Instead of like making their own Halo game with their own vision. And I think that's why they just don't have a new Halo game in development that we know of, right? Halo Infinite was originally going to be a 10-year game with multiple expansions. And as someone that plays single-player Halo, let me tell you, I've had no Halo content for years. I would love a brand new Halo expansion. Like, the way Halo Infinite finishes, you think, oh, we'd get a sequel to that. But from the reaction I've seen from the developers and from people online, people kind of just already accepted defeat and that we aren't going to get a sequel and it's just going to be a brand new thing. Okay. But yeah, you have the Coalition that they've had their head down at work for 7 years making a brand new Gears game. And we've never heard anything about, the Coalition having trouble development, right? They've had a vision. They've made their game. It looks gorgeous. And, yeah, it's a bit weird how, 343, Halo Studios now, they can't seem to make a new game. And by the way, I really liked Halo Infinite. I actually liked Halo 5. I thought that had fun gameplay. And if anything, that's still a great looking game. Still good looking. And I was a huge fan of Warzone Firefight with that game. My God, that was so much fun. But just feels like Halo, like they having problems with it, as per usual. I have seen a lot of people say that maybe id Software should make a new Halo game. Honestly, at this point, I'd like to see someone else try, if necessary. If they want to make a Halo Infinite sequel, I'll be all for that. I'll be there day one. Make a collector's edition, all that stuff. If they want to make an Halo ODST 2, I'd be up for that as well. In fact, I think a lot of people would be up for an ODST 2. But the fact that here we are in 2026, and yeah, the remake comes out next week, it looks super good. Looks great. We don't know the future of Halo. And yeah, Halo to me is the campaign. I know the multiplayer's always been the thing online. People are like, oh, I used to play this back in the day. For me, it's a story. I love Halo's campaigns. Halo campaigns are like 12 hours long, max. It shouldn't be taken 3 or 4 years or 5, 6, 7 years to make these campaigns. They need to really stick to one way of making it, right? Have a multiplayer game you can always support, right? And then come out with new Halo single-player stories, which obviously would do co-op as well. Come out with a new single-player Halo game every 4 years, every 3 years. I don't want to be in my 50s when Halo 7 comes out, right? Or Halo 8, Halo 9, It's tiresome, But hey, that's just my opinion on it. Logan, have you got anything else to say on Halo before we move on?
Basically that apparently, if I remember correctly, didn't wasn't Halo now reporting directly to Asha like in her first
Yeah.
big post that she made when she first took the job? So I think they will get ish figured out, like one way or another, whether it takes a leadership purge or um giving the franchise to a different studio or having multiple studios working on the IP, like with spin-offs and other stuff, like hypothetically, this is not a report, but like hypothetically, like have some of the guys at Activision that are obviously really good at making shooters and, they made Infinite Warfare, just throwing it out there, like have them take a crack at Halo. I know there's some devs over there who have mentioned online that they would love a chance to work on Halo if they could. So have maybe an Activision studio or two take a crack at it. Have id take a crack at it if they want to. Heck, the coalition obviously knows what they're doing. Like I'd give just about anybody with an Xbox Studios a chance at the franchise at this point. Like
Yeah.
anybody competent, let them take a crack at it. We talk about Obsidian's breadth of depth and scale. Imagine a Halo RPG. Like maybe that's a crazy idea, but just if anybody could do it, they could. Like they did Knights of the Old Republic 2. They did,
Yeah.
Outer Worlds. They've, done Alpha Protocol, Fallout. They are master chameleons. They can hop into any IP they want to work with. So the 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 future for Halo is infinite if you can just get some competency put into the pipeline and have people quit arguing, fighting, and belittling or getting in each other's way. Just maybe you need a Darth Vader type to look over people's shoulder and have a tight leash. I don't know what it is, but they need to figure out something. And if all the memes about Asha and Bethesda and stuff that have been online, are accurate, then maybe they have that. So we shall see.
Yeah. About an hour and a half, an hour and 24 minutes into the show. If you're enjoying it, again, we took 2 weeks off because of stupid heat exhaustion. If you're enjoying it, please hit like, share, and subscribe. I hate doing these little ads, but it helps with the algorithm, especially after 2 weeks off. And super chats are live if you want to support the channel that way. Anyway, now we'll talk about the Game Pass Fud thing quickly because Game Pass is this weird. How should I put it? It's this weird target that if there's no news at all, you're guaranteed to see someone in the media. Maybe it's Sean Layden, an ex-Sony employee, talk about Game Pass. You'll have someone that used to work at Xbox that actively doesn't like Microsoft talk about Game Pass, such as Mike Ybarra. And you see this over and over and over again. Every time there's no news, you go, hey, these people, they go to the well and they just get Game Pass, right? They don't want to blame the actual problems in the industry, such as the black hole games. They just go straight to Game Pass. And bear in mind, Game Pass has been around for, 8 years now? And now, all of a sudden, apparently employees at certain Xbox game studios, bear in mind, we don't know how many people. It could be one dude that, maybe codes different kinds of font for Gears of War or something, right? It could be one person, it could be 30 people, it could be 2,000, right? We don't know. However, they're peddling this off as in, Game Pass doesn't work because these employees don't agree with the business model. And to me, that is the dumbest thing anyone's ever came up with. And here's why. Subscription models and the way they work, they pay for the content, right? So it came out today, right? So Stalker 2, this Ukrainian-made game, right, was bought and paid for, basically had all of the funding, all of the game's funding was covered by the amount Xbox paid to get it in Game Pass, right? So that studio, day one, made the money back, right? Made the money back and then some. When a game goes into Game Pass, it's not about the sales of the game. It's about people playing it in Game Pass. That's their metric for success, right? So if Xbox has a lot of money going into this game, and let's say no one plays it on Game Pass, that's a failure. If you have a lot of people play this game that's in Game Pass, that's a success. Now, Netflix is a model I'll use, right? This is the only comparable kind of model I can use. So earlier on this year, a movie came out on Netflix called War Machine. I had a lot of fun watching that. So anyway, you can't buy that movie outright. You have to watch it on Netflix via subscription. But how did it make its money back, Jamie? Because it did via its subscription, right? The subscription that people pay these hundreds of millions that Netflix makes, that gets funneled into making TV shows. They also do some games now and movies. So, it's not about the sales of the movie. It's about how many people are watching it. And do you know what happened? Enough people watched it in its first week. Netflix have already committed to making a sequel. Right? So, bear in mind, it sold no copies, but it's getting a sequel. Because that's how many people watched it. Right? Game Pass works basically the same way, but with bonuses. Xbox also sells their games. You get discounts when games are in Game Pass, right? They also come out with things called DLC, expansions. Some games have microtransactions, so games actually make more money than they do with the Netflix model. But whenever I see these games are not making the money, or you're playing them for free. Nobody's playing these games for free. You're playing them via a subscription. These companies are happy that you play in these games via subscription. Yeah, they still market games that you can buy them, but when I see these people just outright blame the subscription model, they're dumb. They're really dumb. Because I guarantee you, these people, they subscribe to Netflix, Disney Plus, Prime, Paramount Plus, Apple TV, Pandora, Spotify Premium, PlayStation Plus, Nintendo Online. I could go on all day. HBO Max, Sky Go, Now TV, right? All these subscription services I just mentioned are perfectly fine. And yeah, Netflix does cancel stuff. However, Netflix, they cancel stuff based off views, which is a business model that these companies use for games. Kiln, nobody played that game. Nobody played that game. So will Kiln ever get a sequel? Probably not. I'll give a series an example, right? There's a TV show on Netflix I used to love. It was called Travelers. It was about these people.
Oh my gosh, so good.
Right. I won't spoil it for people, but it had two or three seasons. It's incredible. However, nobody watched the second season. Nobody. And where that was going with the story was incredible. And bear in mind, you couldn't buy this on DVD. You couldn't buy it on Blu-ray. You had to watch it on Netflix. So what happened was they didn't make a third season or four. I get mixed up, but they didn't make another season because nobody watched it. Right? Apparently the numbers were super low. Right? But if you have something that's successful, it gets sequels. But it works the same with sold copies as well. If you put out a boxed copy on a shelf and it doesn't sell, it doesn't get a sequel. If you put out a boxed copy on a shelf and it does sell, it does get a sequel. It works the exact same way with streaming numbers. Do you know Netflix paid, I think it was an absurd amount of money, right, to get this license called Jupiter's Legacy. And it was meant to be Netflix's very own like sort of Marvel MCU type thing where they could make movies, TV shows, video games all connected together in the same universe. They had this plan, right? They had really cool actors, planned for multiple seasons of the show. So anyway, season 1 of Jupiter's Legacy comes out. Nobody watched it. And they cancelled the entire universe before it even had a second season. In fact, they cancelled the whole universe based off the viewing numbers of that first shown. I think it was the first 2 weeks numbers. Nobody watched it. I do think the trailers for it didn't really do it that much good. But the show itself is actually really good. Yeah, Extraction. Do you know how that got a sequel? A lot of people watched it. And I found out yesterday, Extraction 3 is happening. I'm happy. I get to see Chris Hemsworth, tear people to shreds again, for 2 hours. So, it works the same with Game Pass. But Game Pass, you can still buy things. And when I see people, say these games don't make money, it's like, that's not the business model, right? And people need to, get out their mind and think, this isn't the 90s anymore. If a game is in Game Pass, that's the business model. We have another super chat by Nick W. Thank you very much for the $4.99. Excuse me, my mouse isn't moving. He says Game Pass is great for games. Game Pass is great for games. I would have tried otherwise. However, for big games like Gears, I'm going to buy. Look, I think it's perfectly fine for people buying it. Right? I have every intention of buying Gears. I have every Gears game on my shelf. Ever. Right? I want to have Gears. I want to keep calling it Gears 6, but Gears of War 80, I want to have that on the shelf. Unfortunately, the collector's edition sold out in 3 minutes in the UK. But I think it's perfectly fine. There's games that launch day one that I buy, and that's an option. If people want to play them via subscriptions, that's cool. If people want to buy them, that's cool. Look, there's a game I always talk about, and I've had gameplay during the show called Hard Space Shipbreaker. I love that game. Absolutely love it. And it launched in Game Pass. But I bought it when it came out because I want to support the developer. They get extra money. And that was a Kickstarter game as well. So, they had funding, they had the Game Pass check, and they also had nerds like me buying it. Right? So that studio had a lot of success. A lot of people played it in Game Pass. And do you know what that studio's doing right now? They're making a game set in the same universe. Therefore, I have a smile on my face because I get another cool sci-fi game. But, Nick, you buy that game, that's great. I'm going to buy it as well. I think a lot of Gears heads are going to buy that game. And you know what? I'm going to play 2/3 of that game because I don't do multiplayer. I'm interested in the campaign, and I'm interested in the 12-player Horde mode. I love myself some Horde mode. My God in heaven. But by the way, Logan, did you ever play Horde mode?
Yes, I did. And I like it, but it's not my favorite. I'm more of a campaign guy, honestly, on Gears.
Yeah. What I would like to see with Horde at some point is maybe add the ability to play with bots. That would be cool. But yeah, just seeing these journalists lose their marbles over subscription models, I think is really funny. Because I guarantee you they do subscribe to at least one subscription service. Hell, look, I have Netflix. I have Disney Plus. But do you know what? I still buy physical movies. I still buy 4K Blu-rays. And honestly, I can actually see the difference between a 4K Blu-ray and a 4K stream. Maybe I'm being a bit of a snob, but if I watch Avatar: The Way of Water on 4K Disney streaming, it looks amazing. But if I watch it on 4K Blu-ray, it looks better. Just putting it out there. But it's always it's going to be a cool option for people. You know what? We've been rambling on about this long enough, Logan. Let's talk about the physical disc situation because, I think that if you're on PlayStation, if you're on Xbox or Switch, like there's a lot of people that play games physically. Depending on your territory, it might actually be cheaper to buy games physically. Some games in the UK in the past have actually been cheaper to buy on disc, which is a crazy thing to think of if you think about it. But that is the case. And anyway, so Sony removing the disc drive, in 2028, not giving publishers the ability to, stream new games. Not being able to play new games on disc in January 2028? Yeah. They cutting off all these third-party developers and publishers from making new games. Now, if I was at one of these third-party publishers, I'd be angry, right? Because like companies such as Ubisoft, their Assassin's Creed titles do really well physically, as well as Far Cry. So like, if I was told like I can't put out a game on disc, one, you're gonna have like a lot of countries where physical media is still widely supported, such as Brazil and other places in Europe. Like certain places in Europe, like I think it's like it's super bad. I think it's way too early to move away from physical. I always talk about the death of physical media in the UK, and that has nothing to do with the rise of online. It has to do with the rise of the ineptitude of whoever owns the company Game. Logan, I don't know if you saw, but our game company Game in the UK. They basically tanked themselves under. I'm not going to mention the story again. In 2012, they shut down about 50% of their stores in 2013, and they've been shutting down more and more stores ever since because they screwed over their own business to a point where they were just selling Funko Pops and stuff. And now they were basically we have the store in the UK called Sports Direct where you buy sports gear, like football shirts, footballs, all that stuff. Well, normally now there's a little tiny corner in the back where there's a kiosk, and that's where you buy video games from the game store, right? So Game is no longer a store in its own thing. It's now a tiny corner in an already existing store. So anyway, because of this, and nobody knows they basically exist anymore, that department has gone into administration, and I think they owe like £16 million or something like that. So Game is officially done in the UK. Gone. So now we don't have any video game stores. And it's not because of the rise of online, it's because Game screwed themselves over with a absolutely stupid business decision. So if you want to buy games in the UK physically, you have these options. You go to CEX, which is mostly a used video game store place, but they do some new stuff, which is it's a terrible place to buy new games. Or Amazon. You have two options. You have some other websites as well, but let's be honest, most people use Amazon. But physical media still means a lot to people, when the Xbox One S came out, people start buying 4K Blu-rays, more companies start making 4K movies because the adoption went up. Then, PlayStation eventually put a 4K Blu-ray drive in their PlayStation 5 for the launch model. And more Blu-rays were sold, right? And the fact that you're not going to be able to give people this option, I think is terrible. Games get delisted, but if you have a game on disc, it'll still work. I've mentioned this before. I have the Deadpool game. It got delisted. I could pop that disc in my Xbox, and I can play Deadpool right now if I wanted to. Taking an option away isn't pro-consumer, and people need to continue to, speak up, continue to vote. Like, PlayStation on Twitter, they've been ratioed basically every day. Every single post they make is getting community noted. They went quiet for a week, right? They went quiet for a week, and clearly they expected the Xbox news to be worse than it was, and it was already bad. But, physical media still means a lot to people. So anyway, it came out today that I think 7 games, and by the way, people will try and stretch this to be against physical media. Only 7 games have sold over 100,000 copies, I think, in the US. Now, the funny thing about that number is there's been around 15 big games this year. So let's just say half, for the sake of it. So half of those games selling that much is actually a lot, right? Uh, Logan, I've been rambling for 10 minutes. The whole physical media thing's getting way out of hand, and obviously, what PlayStation does will affect what Xbox does, but like the physical media thing, like it's been wild this past couple of weeks, but people still care, man.
Yeah, if the Wolverine trailers or any other posts that Sony makes are any indication, the folks are, as they say, big mad still.
Yep.
Um, and rightfully so. Like, I have quite an extensive physical collection of, both games and movies and CDs that I've gathered over 2 decades. And I've become gradually more and more digital, but I still have all these physical ones, or sometimes I have a physical and a digital copy, just to make it easier for, digital use and play anywhere and stuff like that, which we'll talk about Positron later, but like, there were reasons to have both. And that as ownership becomes more of a debate, physical copies is especially important, especially when, like, not to get too, info warsy, tinfoil hatty, but just walk with me down this rabbit trail. Like, you know, as some regions of the world or certain companies or whatever decide that times change and they want to revamp content or decide certain content is acceptable or not acceptable anymore, or say we're just not letting that fly in this region of the world, but this region can have it, or this region can have it but if it's heavily altered or this, or yada yada, etc. Physical media becomes more important because I have a bunch of games that I have physically that are delisted digitally. You cannot get them. Like Silent Hill 4, for example, or some older games, like some 360 games as well that are BC, and some OG Xbox games that are BC, but you can't, buy digitally. And then movies, this was a thing that became an issue the other day, like, as just a fun little story, is like, have you ever heard of the Masters of Horror, like, television show?
Well, so which show?
Masters of Horror.
Oh, the Apple TV thing.
It was a show from like the early 2000s that was on Stars
Oh, right.
for a little bit.
Yeah, no, I've never heard of it. Not a lot of
Uh,
stuff from the US actually comes over here.
okay, fair enough. It had 2 seasons, and then they were gonna make a third season, but the Stars dropped it, and NBC picked it up, and NBC decided to change the name and just call it something else instead of it being the third season, even though it is the third season essentially.
All right.
And so I had bought the first 2 seasons digitally, and I could not find this other season, like, digitally anywhere basically in the United States. And then I'm like, wait a minute, not available to purchase in your country. What do you mean? This is the bloody United States of America. How can I not buy a digital copy of this in the US, but in some other countries it's available? That seems crazy to me. So if it's affecting the US in some aspects of digital ownership, then you better believe it's affecting all over the world. And so I managed to track down a DVD of it. And so I'm getting that in today at some point for that third season I was talking about. But long winded answer is physical media matters because of stuff exactly like this. You couldn't get 28 Days Later, the movie,
Yeah.
digitally for decades. And the only way you could get it was literally an old Blu-ray or DVD copy, and those were hard to find, let me tell you. And so it is very important preservation and for keeping, franchises together and playability that everybody keep raising a royal fit about this. If it's not a franchise or something you particularly care about, I get it. But still, it's about choice and it's about, you know, your rights and the rights of your fellow friends and gamers and media consumers across the spectrum that are being threatened by these companies over pennies on the dollar and corporate greed at the end of the day and control. At the end of the day, it's all about control.
Yeah.
And the less control we have and the more control they have, that is not good for us. So, again, I don't care if it's Xbox, I don't care if it's Sony, Lionsgate, Warner Brothers, MGM, whoever. Companies and entities that try to restrict you on things that are not morally questionable, that are just straight up just stuff to do, that are fine. That is a problem and people should keep fighting it. Don't give up and don't believe these little PR spin pieces from quote unquote journalists defending the decision on some stuff. It's bullcrap and they know it.
Yeah, I think I saw a post by Polygon where they were like, "Oh, I don't care about the disc situation or physical media." It's like, look, if you don't like physical media, that's cool, right? Do you, right? However, like, why would you want an option taken away from you? Like, if you want to say, let's say, play Deadpool, right? You can't get it digitally anymore, but if you have a disc drive, nice, you can try and find a copy, right? It's literally that simple. Like, look, I've got a copy of X-Men Origins Wolverine right next to us, right? It's a journalist copy. It blatantly used to belong to a journalist because I don't think it's been played until I got it. But like, the only way I can play that game now is via the disc on my 360, right? But like, most people will never get to experience that game because of this situation. Also, like, licensing and all that crap, but you know what I mean. And like, so many games are lost to time. Like we were saying earlier on the show, like the Splinter Cell games that got delisted. But if you still have those discs, you can pop the disc in and it works fine. But yeah, and look, I know it does seem hopeless to some people that keep mentioning this and, like, at in PlayStation or whatever. Like, the reason I care so much about PlayStation doing this is because, one, I want people to actually have options, and two, like, if like Xbox has a prime opportunity to get, like, a W, right, and just put out a tweet. That's all Asher Sharma has to do. Put out a tweet saying, by the way, completely out of the blue and a tie to nothing else, we will have a disc drive as an option next gen. That's all they have to do. That's all they have to do. And because I have tons of games here going back to the original Xbox that I can pop in my Xbox. But guess what? If there's no disc drive next gen, I can't do that. Now, you know what? While we're talking about this, we'll quickly talk about Positron, and we will talk about the ongoing physical thing again next week. But Xbox has been working on this program for a very long time called Positron, which to me sounds like a transformer from the 80s or whatever. Was that when the Transformers was out? Was that the 80s? I'm all over the place today. We'll just say 80s.
Yeah, it was 80s, early 90s.
Okay.
Yeah, the old cartoon.
Yeah. But like, Positron, basically, Microsoft's working on this thing that if you put your disc in your machine, you will be given the digital license, meaning you can play the game without the disc. And the only way it would be transferred is if someone else puts that disc in their console, and then the digital license would be transferred to them. Right? Which is what Xbox originally wanted to do last generation. And now people are looking at this program thinking, hey, you know what? That's actually a good idea. 13 years later. So basically, the way Xbox One discs and Xbox Series discs work is that they all have these, as far as I know, they have these numbered identifiers where they basically have, there's no DRM right now, but they can turn it on and transfer the license to you digitally. I think that's cool, right? However, still going to need a disk drive, you know. Um, but this is an option that they're working on. Logan, I know you want to talk about this because, like, me personally, I have a bunch of discs here. I rarely, lend them out. So, like, for me, I'd be able to pop my disc in, install it, and not need the disc in anymore, for at least for a foreseeable amount of time. To me, I think this is a cool option, but we're still going to need a disk drive for it.
Yeah, I'm curious how this is going to work exactly. Like, it should be coming this week, announcement on it. By the end of the month, apparently, fingers crossed. And like, it directly ties to our previous topic, like we said. I'm all for options. I think this is a great thing. I'll admit that I've asked people at Xbox in the past about this kind of idea, like hey guys, hypothetically, could you, have like Movies Anywhere was my example.
Yeah.
Like you buy a Blu-ray and it comes with the code. Or also, you've got your 4K version disc, you've got your Blu-ray disc, and then you've got your digital code for SDX or for 4K or whatever they give you. But they give you a digital code as well
Yeah.
because they want you to be able to experience it everywhere. They're like, you paid hard-earned money for our movie. Here you go. You can watch it all these different ways on the house. Like you bought it, have at it. And I just thought, why can't gaming do that? And then the rebuttal was always about used games, or what if somebody, buys the game and then gets the code and then just sells the game or something, physically or whatever, and then they get a free code and they just troll the company. And it sounds like they have found a workaround for that. And it's a really good system, I think, where you put in a game. Allegedly, you put in a game and you tie it to your account, and it'll give you all the access of Play Anywhere or maybe cloud, the stuff you would get if you had a digital purchase. It basically makes it like, okay, you can just activate this much like a digital purchase instead of having to put the disc in all the time. You can use it for like your Ally X, whatever, like a normal Play Anywhere or type experience without being screwed over because you bought it physically, which again is another pro consumer move because, you know, if you haven't noticed, like the stores that do still sell physical games, they often have some sales around Black Friday or Amazon Prime Day or stuff like this where you can get some big games for dirt cheap or garage sales, stores, whatever. You could stockpile some of these suckers up and then load them up and have the Play Anywhere and all those features and have saved money by finding some discs somewhere. And to me, that's awesome. It's a pro consumer move. And I can't wait to see it officially revealed. To me, it is a bummer if they can't figure out a way to do it for some OG and 360 titles as well. I'll be completely honest. I think they can. It's a matter of will they? In my opinion, but again, I'm not on the engineering team because like take for example, we talked about delisted stuff like Blood on the Sand, 50 Cent or King Kong, Peter Jackson's King Kong. Those are BC games, but they're only on disc. Unless you were lucky and in 2004 or 2000 whenever bought a digital copy of it, congratulations, you won the lottery. Um, but unless you did that, then you're not going to be able to play it if you can't convert it digitally, especially if Helix doesn't have a disk drive, which is another reason I keep pushing for the disk drive. It's for backwards compatibility, number one, for these specific games that you can't get anywhere else. And two, it's an underreported feature that people, for some reason, act like, they just never think of or act like it's not a thing, but it is. Newsflash, I use my Series X as my 4K Blu-ray player. My Blu-ray player, my DVD player,
Yeah, same.
my all-in media player. Like, it's part of the justification of the price. I remember back in the day when my dad bought the massive, like, tank of a PS3. And part of the justification, the mom and stuff, was like, hey, it's also a Blu ray player. We can watch the best movies on it. It's part of the cost in it. And it made sense. We used it as the family Blu ray player. Just like, imagine now going forward, if none of these devices play 4K Blu rays, imagine having to keep up some older consoles or buy a 4K Blu-ray player just to be able to watch your own movies and shows like you used to, instead of the next device doing it as well. It would be a missed opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, look, it would be a colossal easy win. Like if the positron thing is announced next week, if they just say like, even if it's like one sentence in like the bottom of a paragraph that says like, we will offer disk drive as an option next gen. That's it, right? That's all they have to do. I guarantee you, a lot of people, such as myself, will be way happier because like I have like my 360 games. I always talk about my 360 games. I maybe play a 360 game maybe once a week, right? Probably more than once a week. Um, and the fact that I can just like grab, let's say, The Witcher 2 off my shelf, even though I've got it digitally now because they gave it away 3 years ago, like I could put the disc in and play it and get the upgrade, right? But hopefully people keep being vocal because there are people at Microsoft that are paying close attention to this. Now the other thing people have said that, and I kind of get it, that if you're Microsoft, would you even mention it until the console's ready to be shown off? Because then it'd be too late for Sony to do anything. So it's like, what would benefit Microsoft the most versus the players? So, it will be a tough one. But look, if you're on PlayStation and still want discs, like, please be vocal. Because these companies do pay attention to this stuff. And look, PlayStation, they're getting ratioed on every post. They're getting community noted on every post. They cancelled the Fight Stick indefinitely. Or, well, put it on hold indefinitely because, like, if you think about it, most people that own fighting sticks tend to have a physical collection of games. At least every time I see someone with a physical fighting stick, they have a wall of discs, right? So, like, you telling that consumer, hey, buy our I don't know how much the fighting stick costs, but you buy our fight stick, and by the way, you can't get these games on disc anymore. Like, it's not setting a good tone, You know what? Before we get into the last topic, which is a juicy one, there is a big Xbox sale on at the minute. A lot of games are up to like 90% off. The Final Fantasy games are all on sale except for 13. Except for 13. Every time. Every time. By the way, whenever there's a sale, I just search that game digitally to see if they've actually put it on sale yet. Nope. Like,
We need to start a campaign or a Kickstarter or like a change.com thing or something on that. Like, make the 13 trilogy on sale. Like, at least once. Come on, Square. It is not that big of an ask.
yeah, I mean, look, it's not the end of the world that's on sale. I think it's reasonably priced, but like I'm trying to think when Final Fantasy 13 came out. 2008, 2009. Like the fact that that game is like still like 20. I think it's like $20. Like, come on, lower the price. The fact that you could buy Final Fantasy 7 Remake for like half the price is ridiculous. But yeah, you know what? Let's get into the Fallout stuff now because it's juicy. So, when Microsoft purchased Obsidian, a lot of people like myself were looking forward to brand new, crispy new RPGs. Maybe bringing back something like, Alpha Protocol, right? Hey, I'd take another Simpsons, and I was going to say a Simpsons game, but I'd take another South Park RPG. but like, they could basically make anything. But when they purchased Bethesda, the stars kind of aligned for a lot of people, right? Like, hey, so if you own both of these now, you own all of the IP, you own the right studios. Wouldn't it kind of make sense to make a brand new Fallout game made by Obsidian? Like, everyone was kind of thinking the same thing, but that never happened. But ever since Asher Sharma took over, they clearly lean into big IP, which I'm 100% on board for. Lean into IP that's big, well known, that will actually do well, and people will play well or play in high numbers. Well, that's what they're doing now. So out of nowhere, and I think the way they did it was actually really well done. But typically, if you have a company that's there's bad PR, such as the layoffs and stuff, if you have something good to talk about, you rip off that band-aid straight away. You talk about that stuff, right? And thankfully they did. So they basically gave us the entire roadmap for Fallout going forward. So Fallout 76 is getting a brand new expansion, which will be a prequel to Fallout 3. I think they said that's coming either late this year or early next year. Fallout Shelter is continuing to get updates on mobile, as everyone knows. Fallout 3 Remake and Fallout New Vegas Remake got confirmed officially. Now, let me take a minute to, celebrate, because I've had Fallout 3 Remake in about 40 titles on podcasts. Right? We've talked about this a million times, because ever since that Activision leak back in 2022, we've been waiting a long while, and it's finally happening. It's announced, and they said they're going to show us the trailers later. But for Bethesda to actually announce Fallout games officially, it's a big move. Now, I'm a huge Fallout 3 fan. It's one of my favorite games of all time. Logan, I know you're a huge New Vegas fan, so I bet you're happy about this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love both, but I mean, if I had to pick one, I like the choice and the narrative branching and stuff of Vegas better. But I like some of the overall core stuff better in Fallout 3. That might be kind of a whimsy answer, but like I think each one does something better than the other one does. Just frankly.
Yeah.
So they're both good but different. Um but yeah, I think a new Fallout game from Obsidian was an obvious choice from day one. As soon as they acquired Bethesda, it felt like a matter of why isn't this happening versus a
Yeah.
this should happen kind of thing. And I'm sure y'all have seen the memes about Asha and
Yeah.
Todd Howard, the various ones, and they're hilarious. By the way, I love them. Chef's kiss, whoever made those. But it was like that. It like I think he much has been made about the dynamics between Bethesda and Obsidian, how accurate or how inaccurate they are, whatever it may be. But Todd, to his credit, came out and said that wasn't accurate and said, it was about timing and this, yada yada. Whether it's PR speak or fully true, I don't know. But to his credit, he came out and he gave this answer. And yeah, we're finally getting a new game from Obsidian that is Fallout, an actual new, honest to God Fallout game before the apocalypse.
Yeah.
I mean, this is incredible. Like, I'm so glad it's finally happening. Why it took a full on regime change to get this to happen in a few months rather than when did they acquire Obsidian? Was it
2018.
18?
Yep.
Okay, and when did they acquire Bethesda?
2020.
Okay, so we've had 7 years this could have happened or been greenlit at the very least. And it manages to get greenlit and turbocharged in a few months. That I don't know how else to put it, but that is alarming about previous however things were handled. Whether they just had a different dynamic with leadership and they just were like, all right, you guys aren't feeling it right now, or you don't, or you're stretched thin, or yada yada this or this, you know, and then if reports are true that he was holding it up, whether again, if that's true or not, I don't know. But if that were true, the fact that takes off to having to come in as Vader and basically go, you know what? I don't care. We need Fallout. You're going to make Fallout, and you're gonna like it. Um, Again, that's music to the people's ears. And then you see clowns in media saying they were forced to do this, or they've lost their rights as a studio, or this or this. I'm like, buddy, at the end of the day, if you want to survive as a studio, you got to make things people want. And you can't take 20 years with a gold mine IP to get something out the door. Get off your butt and do it. And right or wrong, Osher was able to do that in a few months when previous leadership couldn't get it done in 7 years. Why? I don't know. Just saying it's mighty interesting.
Yeah. Before I get into my thoughts about what Asher Sharma's doing, I'll mention the last two things that they actually mentioned. Actually, three things. So Fallout 76, I mentioned, is getting an expansion. We know about the remakes, the new game by Obsidian. Elder Scrolls Online is going to continue to get content. That's a big MMO on console and PC, so why not? They officially actually mentioned Fallout 5. Now, obviously, we're going to be waiting a long time for Fallout 5. But the good news is, considering what Obsidian's like, we're actually going to have Fallout games to play in between Fallout games. Thank God. Finally. I've been starving, right, for new Fallout. Like, come on. And Elder Scrolls 6 is, in production, as we know. But look, my honest opinion about the whole Asher Sharma situation. Yeah, I saw in chat. Yeah, she's whipping them into shape. Right? I'm going to say the quiet part out loud. I think she's doing a great job. Right? People been asking for these big Fallout games. Like, hey, Phil, why can't you get, Obsidian on a Fallout game? Oh, well, it's up to Todd Howard and all this. No. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear yes. Right? And, look, no hate on Kiln or Pentiment. I think these smaller games are cool. But really think about it. Like, if you're gonna have like a big studio, like I'll use Double Fine, even though we're talking about Fallout, but like Double Fine, they made Psychonauts 2, right? And thanks to Xbox, they made boss battles in the game, and that's a critically acclaimed game. It sold well. A lot of people played it in Game Pass. If I was running Microsoft or Xbox at the time, I would have gotten Double Fine on Psychonauts 3 immediately. Not Kiln, not a pottery-based party brawling game. Psychonauts 3. And, like Obsidian, they should have been making a Fallout game for years, right? If you look at The Outer Worlds 2, it's kind of like a Fallout game. It has this similar vibe to it. While not like Fallout, it has a lot of similarities. Avowed has a lot of similarities with an Elder Scrolls game, albeit not being open world and not having the immersive sim elements. But Brutal Legend. I would love a Brutal Legend 2. That's not an RTS, by the way. A game that's marketed, correctly. But I always liked the fact that Microsoft were trying these smaller games, right? But looking at these smaller games, like, nobody talks about them. We live in an age where, like, the only games that really get talked about are these small indie games that pop off, such as, like, Vampire Survivors, right? Which went viral. It's super cheap, right? And it's a super accessible game, right, for everyone. And these big marquee games, right? The in-between games by these big studios, they don't exist. Like, look at Ubisoft. Ubisoft used to make smaller games all the time. Now they don't, right? Thankfully, they're listening to a lot of feedback and fans wanting Rayman to come back, so we are getting a Rayman remake this year, but it's actually a kind of a bigger scale game. And I don't like to toot my own horn, but I think I've been right. Focusing on these big IPs is the right thing to do. You have Obsidian, one of the best RPG developers in the business, and you don't have them on a Fallout game. It boggles my mind, right? So thankfully that is actually happening, and like the remake things, right? People have been asking for these games for ages. The TV show caused so much of a surge in popularity in Fallout that Fallout 4 was #1 in the UK 11 years after it came out. Do you know how crazy that is? That's physically, by the way. Yeah, physically in the UK. Who would have thought? And that's because of a TV show. And now you have Season 3 that comes out next year. And you have these Fallout games are blatantly going to come out. Blatantly going to come out for when that show's out. And I think they said March is when Season 3 will come out. And like that's prime marketing right there. No pun intended. Like when you have Season 3 finish or start, at the end of the credits you can have the trailer, right? You're going to have millions of people watching instantly saying, hey, I can play this game. Nice. And, they can do that now, which is great, finally. We've been waiting so long. But, man, like, look, I'm not saying anything bad about Phil Spencer. He basically saved Xbox, right? He got backwards compatibility working. He got Game Pass to be a thing. He saved Xbox. He took out the Kinect in 2014, lowered the price of the box, right? Like, if it wasn't for him, Xbox wouldn't be around today. But it does make me wonder what the hell has been going on at Xbox for years now, right? Have they just been, I don't know, I've been using this term for a while called coasting by. I feel like, they just accepted their position in the market. They didn't do anything to improve it, and they just thought, you know what, we're gonna cash in. We're gonna make our games multi-platform. We're gonna make the money that way. We're not gonna try and get people into our console, into our ecosystem. And I personally feel that's what they've been doing. That's why we stopped getting console updates for 3 years. Yeah, about 3 years we stopped getting console updates. And what do we have now? Console updates. Xbox is constantly talking about Xbox as a console. We see an Xbox console marketing now. Wild. And you see this surge of interest in Xbox again, which I haven't seen in, let's be honest, years. And if people want competition in the gaming space, don't people want Microsoft to compete? And on with the Fallout thing, as we've seen this past week, a lot of people are talking about, should the Fallout games be exclusive? And
Yeah.
Look, there's people that I've been talking to on social media for years that disagree with me on the whole exclusivity thing, right? Right, and I think it's perfectly fine to have different opinions and stuff. It's just when it resorts to like people doing name calling and falling out and stuff. Like, people can disagree with me. That's perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. But my opinion, if you're Xbox and you purchase these studios and you want people to get into your ecosystem, if you want people to get into your, be part of your user base, you need to give people a reason to buy your box. If you want to buy a Switch, right, you have a million different reasons. You have the Zelda games. You have the Fire Emblem games. You have Donkey Kong. You have Mario. You have the Metroid Prime, whatever it's called, out. Like, you have a ton of different reasons to buy into a Switch 2, right? And then when you're in the ecosystem, maybe you'll see a third-party game on sale, and you've put money into the ecosystem that way. With Xbox, they've been putting their games elsewhere, which has made people go, why should I buy into Xbox? Because why would you? And I always hear that, Game Pass is the exclusive, right? Game Pass is a reason to get an Xbox or play games on Xbox, but it's not the reason. The reason is the same reason it's always been, games, right? The reason why people got an Xbox, like Xbox One's launch titles, they had the better lineup. Let's be honest, right? They had a worse situation, but they had the better lineup, right? Xbox 360, why did people buy that at launch, right? It was affordable, it had a great lineup. And plus, King Kong as a launch game really worked. Like, a lot of people were talking about King Kong as a launch title, and Call of Duty 2, huge launch title. But like,
I unironically adore that King Kong game. It is so good.
Oh yeah, it's fun. It's fun. I haven't played it in a long time. I might have to give it another go. But like, there are a lot of reasons to buy into those consoles. And exclusives are one of them. It's a big part. But like, if you remove exclusives from Xbox, how do you market a Helix to someone? Let's be honest, right? How do you market a Helix to someone? Hey, you Xbox fan, you can play the games you already own on this, and you can get our new games. Okay, so how are you getting new consumers? Don't know. Like I just don't know what the marketing plan or strategy was for all this time. And whenever I talk about Xbox, they've gone back to Xbox as a console rather than an ecosystem. It's because look at every interview by Sarah Bond and Phil Spencer over the past 3 years. They talk about Xbox as this brand that's not just a console; it's an ecosystem. You play games, you know, you play games via the ecosystem, via portable, right? They talk about portable all the time, via the cloud and all this stuff. But they haven't really talked about console in a long time, right? And obviously, when you have these big CEOs and stuff do interviews, a lot of these questions are vetted. So, like, over the past couple of years, whenever we've heard Phil Spencer do one interview after another, after another, after another, right, we've not heard a single person ask Phil Spencer, why should people buy an Xbox if your games are elsewhere? Because the questions are clearly vetted. They have to be. I'm not blaming the interviewers, by the way. I'm blaming the corporate structure itself, right? So, like, if you're Xbox right now, you're going to tell people, hey, you're going to get Gears of War exclusive this year. You're getting console updates as well as your other Game Pass stuff. You're getting Clockwork Revolution next year and a bunch of unannounced games, Fallout and whatnot, right? You're giving people propositions to get into Xbox. And Fallout, that's a big proposition. Elder Scrolls, big proposition. You don't get much bigger than those two IPs, right? Very few franchises on the planet, I think, are cultural pop culture events when they come out, right? You have Grand Theft Auto, you have Fallout, you have Elder Scrolls. I'd argue to say Zelda is a cultural event, even Pokemon to an extent. But like Fallout and Elder Scrolls are up there, and Microsoft, if they utilize these games properly and say, hey, Helix, you're going to have Fallout, I'm just going to make something up, Fallout New York, right? Fallout New York by Obsidian, right? Wouldn't that raise a lot of people's eyebrows thinking, you know what? I'm a Fallout fan. I need that. Very few franchises have that pull. And personally, I think they should do that. And they also have the PC user base, because if you're on PC, and by the way, I'm perfectly fine with the PCs thing, right? There's PC gamers and there's console gamers. I perfectly think it's fine to launch games on PC as well. And you have, like, how many people own a capable gaming PC? What, a couple of 100 million? I know it's a bloody big number. I think it's more than consoles, but like, you have a lot of people on PC that will be their day one for a Fallout game. And I think smaller live service stuff can be multi-platform, some big stuff as well. Like Minecraft, for all intents and purposes, is a live service game because look at the microtransactions for it. Call of Duty, that's on everything. That's coming to the Switch 2 this year. That's going to do well. I've been saying this for a long time. If there's ever a Killer Instinct 2, I think that should be multi-platform, shady, because these fighting games live and die by the player base. So that's just my opinion on it. But I think that Microsoft are in a good position finally to actually market their console in a way they haven't been able to for a while. Because like, how many times have you tuned into like or IGN or something, and like they just so down about Xbox. They say there's nothing. Like I make monthly videos about what games are coming to the platform, and even though I'm 100% talking about these games, what they're about, what you do every single month I get multiple comments just saying, why should I buy an Xbox? Even though like I'm just talking about the upcoming releases. I like talking about upcoming releases. There's not enough talk about actual games. But yeah, it's just a bit of a shame. I don't know why, but my door just flew open. I think there's a ghost.
I'm telling you, you need AC, man.
Yeah. Oh my god, it's scorching here. My PC's like making my room like a microwave. But um, my point is that look, Xbox, they've been changing things since Asha Sharma stepped in. She's clearly putting her foot down. Like, let's be honest, the creative freedom thing these studios have had for years, it hasn't worked out, right? You can make these. Yeah, Logan, I don't know if you saw this, but a video went viral on social media about a week ago of someone doing their daily life in the Microsoft offices,
Mhm.
and they went in, they had breakfast, and the breakfast was made by a chef. They had a post breakfast snack. They had like a meditation session, and then they had some pre work, and then they had lunch, and the post lunch hangout, and then they had the focus work, they called it. It was 30 minutes of focus work, right? Uh, and then they had half an hour of preparing themselves to leave work. Not just finish up, but like prepare themselves to leave work. And it's just like, if they had that mentality in the game studios, no wonder it takes so long for these games to get made, right? Creative freedom's cool and all, but like, come on. Like, if I had, let's say I ran BioWare in its prime, and Microsoft owned BioWare, right? Now, if you were Microsoft, would you get them on a brand new Mass Effect game, or would you make a brand new multiplayer game where you play as thumbs and you do thumb battles dressed as video game characters from the past? Now, previously, we would have seen this thumb battle game by BioWare. Thankfully, that will never happen in this timeline. But like, that would happen. But under Asha Sharma, you'd actually say, hey, I don't know, make a brand new Mass Effect game. Your bread and butter, what you're known for. Um, and I think that we need to see more. We need to see more of these people put the foot down, right? Like, look at Japanese studios, right? Do we ever hear this stuff from Japanese studios or Chinese studios? Nope, right? They put their head down, they make the game, they make something people want, they get the game out. Oh, what's this? People like it, right? I get it. I glazed the Rebirth and Remake trilogy a lot. However, they somehow able to make 3 really good games. And I am yet to play Revelation, but I'm guaranteed it's going to be good. But like, they are going to be able to make a whole trilogy of great games in 7 years, whereas we go an entire decade in between sequels in Western-made games. Why is that? I know a bunch of reasons why, but I'm being facetious at this point. um, I think these studios need to actually, put the feet down, put the head down, get to work on what people want. We're in an age where these video games are costing hundreds of millions of dollars. So shouldn't you want to make a game that people will buy and play? Shouldn't you want to make a big game that's going to have impact? That's going to stick out in people's minds, and they think, hey, what game was one of the best games of the year? Was it this brand new, hard-hitting sci-fi shooter that's set in the StarCraft universe? Or is it going to be this game where you play as a pottery-based party brawling dude? I feel bad for keep using Kiln, but it's the only smaller game that's out at the minute I can think of. um, and I don't think that they can stop, or I should say, I don't think they should stop making smaller games altogether, but they need to be more constructive about it, right? So, for instance, Logan, can you remember that Mega Bloks Halo game?
Yeah, I'm still pissed about that getting canceled. I think that would have done numbers.
Yeah, so that is a smaller game that would have done well, right? It's a Halo game set in an existing universe, using an existing IP in a brand new setting and gameplay style. People would have ate that up. I think if you make smaller games that's akin to that, I think people would be all over it, right? But I've never heard someone go, oh, I want to play a party based brawling pottery game. I'm not taking shots at the game. I'm really not. But it's the only game I could think of at the top of my mind, right? And at that Mega Bloks game, I see people mention it all the time still. All the time, right? What about making a quirky, cool horror game set in the Halo universe where you're being chased by the Flood or Gravemind?
I would buy that day one, and I would cherish that game so much online if they made that game.
Exactly. You know, um, any number of things they could do, right? You know, you could do like a cozy farming Fable game, right? They could do anything.
Stardew Valley Fable would
Yeah,
be amazing.
yeah. You could farm crops and give STDs. It'd be amazing. Um, but like, the thing is, that's what
Oh
what
my gosh,
th-
that's amazing.
that's what that Fable game would be, though. Um,
Uh,
but they just need to like we've always been talking about this StarCraft shooter, right? They have an existing sci-fi universe with millions of fans, right? And every time you see clips from the cutscenes, what is it? It's dudes and mechs fighting aliens. It's literally it's there on a silver platter. Make a shooter. That's all you've got to do, and thankfully they are. Apparently, there's two in development, but like a StarCraft shooter. Why not make a single player RPG set in the Warcraft universe? Right? They have the teams for it. They have the studios for it. So why not do stuff like that? It's just like making these offshoot things that have nothing to do with anything they already have. Like Pentiment, right? Pentiment has one of the coolest, unique art styles I've ever seen. It's like that old. I don't know what you call the art style, but like I really like that look. But like, did Pentiment really make like millions of people go? You know what? I want to play that game, and I think Pentiment's a really cool game that more people need to try. But my point is, when these games like look at South of Midnight. I had a ton of fun with South of Midnight. I was shocked when I found out that game cost $100 million. $100 million for this game you can finish in 6 hours. Like, and again, I like that game. I'm gonna play it again soon because I had a lot of fun with it. But like, I couldn't believe it. And like, that's their third game in what at that point it'll have been 13 years. So 3 games in 13 years. It's just not working. The way current game development is, like, things need to change, and them leaning into big IP, having multiple studios making Fallout games is a bloody good start. And oh, by the way, Logan, you've probably seen this. Do you know there's people on social media that if you praise anything Asher Sharma does, you a Phil Spencer hater, and you only do it because you fancy Asher Sharma?
Yeah, that's strange behavior. Just like if you criticize somebody, it means you're sexist, or if you or there's people always go to extremes. Like you're either fancying somebody,
Yeah.
or you're race baiting something, or you're misogynistic, or you're this or that, or you're a creep, and it's like nothing is ever just logical or factual or just like, hey, I like what they're doing in this aspect, but I wish they could kind of do something different in this aspect, or I don't agree with this, but hey, I'm gonna let it play out. Like, yeah, there's a whole bunch of weird stuff, and I have a few thoughts on the small project thing whenever.
You can talk about that now if you want.
Oh, okay. Thank you. It was just going off, like, for one, on Pentiment in particular. I know for a fact that that was Josh Sawyer admits it, and there's an interview with him on Defining Duke, if you don't believe me, um, where he says basically, like, he basically told Microsoft, let me do this game or deuces. And because he wanted to just be able to make this thing that had been a vision of his in his head for a while, and he wanted to just have a one shot at a little cool idea he had and see how it went. And he said, "Let me do this, and I'm happy. I totally understand. I'm probably only gonna ever get one shot to pull this card, or maybe another down the line, but like this is my one shot at it." And so he's like, "We've been acquired. You want me to stay at the company? Let me do this." They said yes, because Josh Sawyer is that good of a talent. And I get that it didn't do that great, but it did do critically quite well. And I have the game myself. I think it's super cool and fascinating. So that one I will defend and understand. And then Grounded, for example, was the whole Honey I Shrunk the Kids idea, like made into a game, brilliant. And the whole releasing it as a cheaper early access title where the community helps
Oh yeah.
work with a small dev team to make this into something was brilliant. That's the perfect way to do a small passion project like that. Have a small little team of your studio work on something and incubate an idea and put it out there, and if it gets enough traction at HQ and people are like, this might have a shot, we'll put it in early access and see how it does and see what feedback is. And if it gains traction, keep going, have a release, and see where it goes. And if not, then you can go, yeah, we like the idea, but it's just not really there. And you move on. Like, I think they should be able to do some smaller projects as well, but I think they should be like smaller teams or have them being worked on in between major projects while they're waiting for things to set up. Like before a Fallout is ready to work on, or like you're doing with Avowed 2. Avowed 2 is not dead, it is still being worked on. They're just it's not announced yet. But basically, it sounds like they're working on it till Fallout's ready, and then when Fallout's ready, they'll all be on that. And then Avowed 2 will be put on pause, and then eventually they'll get to it again and release it because they have plans and they want that game to happen. And frankly, I do too. Ideal world, you get Fallout and Avowed, where you get a new IP that you hope on the second chance hits and does what you wanted the first one to do. Games deserve a second chance, I think. So give it a second go and see how it does. And then you also have the game that keeps the lights on and keeps your studio fed and keeps you in good graces with the community and getting a new Fallout game out. And then while you're buoyed by the success of that, you can take a few more risks. Get Avowed 2 out there. Get maybe another smaller project out there. See what hits. You never know. Like, I think there's a way for both, but the days are over of we can do art house, small little projects only as a studio, or take crazy risks and ignore our major IPs that we have. Bottom line, you can't go 15 years in between an Elder Scrolls. Like, that just should not be. You can't go a decade between Fallouts. Have all these. You can't have what has happened to Halo happen to Halo again. Like, they got to have their major franchises out on a steady cadence and have a few passion projects mixed in and see what happens. But as far as exclusivity, which I guess we're probably going to wrap up with, my stance is you got to have the big hitters be exclusive, or why bother? Like, a a few token gesture exclusives taken out of a hat at random, out of a sorting hat, and then you announce them, and you're like, see, you guys get exclusives, yay, look at us, and then they pat themselves on the back. That ain't placating anybody. That's almost insulting rather than, like, it's better than nothing, but at the end of the day, you need consistency. And what better way than to have Elder Scrolls 6 Helix launch exclusive? I guarantee you that will sell units if that happened.
Yeah, it's funny because I was looking at when Halo came out, Halo 7. So you had Halo 7 came out in 2007. You had Halo ODST, which came out in 2009. Then you had Halo Reach, which came out in 2010. Like, that's wild if you really think about it. And in the meantime, Halo 3 was still getting maps, right, and support. So, like, you look at now, like, if, let's say, these new Fallout games weren't announced other than 5, we would be looking at somewhere close to 20 years in between Fallout 4 and 5.
That's a disgrace.
Yeah, that's
I don't know how else to put that. That is ridiculous.
yeah. So like my friend that I play Call of Duty with, um, he's a huge Fallout fan, absolutely huge Fallout fan. When I told him that, he kind of went silent for a minute because like that's the reality of the situation, right? That we would be having 20 years basically in between Fallout 4 and 5. Like, that shouldn't be a thing. Now, with Obsidian, they can make games faster. They can make smaller games. Like, the Fallout game Obsidian makes doesn't necessarily have to be a Fallout 5-sized game. It could just be a new game set in that universe. People just want something new, you know? And I think they can finally do that now. But, yeah, I really wonder at some point, are we actually going to hear like what's been going on over the years where these studios have just been, or have they been twiddling the thumbs? I doubt it, but like the leadership has just let them do what exactly in the past, you know? Like, was Todd Howard just so secretive over Fallout for so long, and then Asher Sham was like, hey, I own you, right? Like, make a Fallout game with Obsidian now, right? Maybe that was the case. We don't know. Maybe we'll never know. But hey, we're getting new Fallout games, which is bloody good. And look, yeah, we're going to be talking about Halo again next week. And look, we have so many cool games coming out this year. So many cool games coming. By the way, we didn't actually talk about this live. You know that new game, The Blood of Dawnwalker, that's coming out in a couple of months? It's made by former CD Projekt Red devs. It looks like a Witcher 3 game, right? Turns out, it looks fantastic, right? Turns out that you make many different choices in that game, but they've said they want to get like sequels out in a short amount of time, and you're going to be able to carry over your choices into subsequent sequels. Now,
That's music to my ears. I haven't heard that concept in years.
yeah. Now, as a Mass Effect fan, let me tell you, that speaks right to my heart right there. Yeah, like give me. Isn't it weird how that's just not an option in most games? Like very few games, very few let you do that. And Dawnwalker looks phenomenal, and it comes out in September. And they have bold plans for that franchise. And I love the fact that they're talking about it as a franchise as well. They have so much, like they have so much. How should I put it? I can't think of the word, but they have bold ideas for the franchise, right? And if they talk about it as a franchise, which is cool. And again, they want to get sequels out in just a couple of years, not 7, not 8, not 9, just a couple. And same with The Witcher 4, by the way, which I don't know if we've talked about this before. CD Projekt Red want Witcher 4, 5, and 6 to come out in 6 years. Now, let me tell you, I cannot wait, right? We had the Mass Effect trilogy in 6 years, and listen now, I still talk about the bloody thing. So if they can get a Witcher, trilogy out in 6 years, that's great. That's really great. Logan, have you got anything else to say before we close out the show?
I'm just super excited, and hopefully we get official Positron news later this week.
Yeah, and sorry for people like jumping in the show right now, but typically we are a 2-hour show. Normally we tend to go a little bit over sometimes, but now we're like 2 hours for 37 minutes. But everyone, it's been great. Sorry that we took 2 weeks off, but this heat just destroyed me. But we will be back for a new episode of All Things Xbox Podcast next Tuesday. And I should have 2 videos out, hopefully, by the next podcast. So if you're looking forward to new games or talking about existing games, I've got you covered. And yeah, the link to my previous videos in the description down below. 10 biggest new games coming to Xbox in July. There's actually quite a few games coming out for the rest of this month, because most games in June, or I say the July, are coming out in the second half of the month. It seems to be an ongoing thing for the rest of the year, I've noticed. But yeah, the link is in the description. The support is greatly appreciated. I have bold things planned for the channel, and I will be doing on-camera stuff in the incoming months when it's finally cooled down a little bit, because you don't want to see a sweaty mess on screen. That's not pleasant for anyone. Anyway, everyone, chat's been great. We'll see you next Tuesday. And yeah, 2 more videos out, hopefully, by the next show. We hope everyone has a great day, everybody. We're out.